turnover rate, new hire turnover rate, and termination reasons. Again, available via desktop or mobile, just empowering your managers to get in front of turnover and ensure that you're positioning yourself to not only retain or not only attract, but also to retain and develop your top talent. Another snapshot of the different analytics that you can pull. Again, data is literally our middle name. So I would say if there is a competitive advantage that we have out on the market, that is just it, is enabling our clients to leverage data to make better decisions. Here you'll see the ADP Marketplace. So every single logo that you see in this graphic is one of our partners. So what ADP did a while back was we identified what our core competencies are. Payroll and HR technology, specifically relating to the employee life cycle. And then found a number of areas that really tie into our industry, but we weren't trying to do everything. And so what we did is we created an ADP Marketplace with open architecture to allow anybody that has a best of breed system to vie to be a part of our marketplace. And so whether it's a Concur for expense management, Cornerstone for learning management systems, we have a number of partners with pre-built integrations available, whether bi-directional, inbound or outbound, to make the process of selecting industry or municipality specific providers, many of which we have already available as partners. This is a snapshot into ADP Advantage, which is our implementation program. We started this program about 2 years ago and identified 4 primary aspects that can be the difference between getting a client set up the right way the first time or having issues that can become more cumbersome down the road. And so here you'll see 4 different categories that we have really identified and put a ton of resources into to ensure that we set you all up the right time. With that is we have the ability to pull over your previous data up to 7 years from your current provider, any of the employee data from pay rate, check history, salary history, ACA history. We're gonna pull that out, load that for you, help you customize your system, both on the portal homepage that I showed you, any specific policies that the city may have. We'll help set up those self-service tools for your employees and train you on how to leverage that onboarding process. The third square is our training. So it's tailored to your users. We have on-site practitioners, though during the pandemic, that's become a little bit more leaned on virtual, but now that things are opening up a little bit more, we definitely look forward to getting back on site with some of our clients where possible. Custom virtual employee and manager trainings available as well. So we're not just going to give you the technology and say good luck. We're going to ensure your team knows how to use it and has an effective rollout to ensure that you're maximizing the technology and getting good utilization for the money that you're spending. And with that, lastly, comes world-class support. So you're going to get a dedicated single account manager who's your quarterback, for lack of a better term. It's your direct point of contact that's going to help you navigate ADP anytime you need support further than what's available with the technology. You'll have a one-on-one with an HR consultant, and then we have utilization reviews where we're going to come back and tell you exactly how effectively you're utilizing the technology. And because it's modular based, if you find that a module that you selected and included in the RFP process and decided to go live with didn't really have the impact that you thought it would, turn it off, not paying for it. And so we're not going to we're not going to ask you to pay for services that you're not using, and you can really lean into to make sure that you're getting the most out of the technology with that support. Nearing the end here, I know we're getting close to time. This is just a quick highlight into your ADP account team, both from an implementation support, ongoing support, and then your district manager is going to help you as well. This is a sample project timeline to show implementation of truly what is involved to help analyze, build, and then go live. We'll agree on a go live date, help lay out the milestones needed to ensure we can effectively achieve that date, and then lay out a very, very deliberate timeline in tandem with your team to ensure that everyone knows exactly what's involved and that we all collaborate effectively to ensure that we go live at the expected go live date, which here, lastly, you will see a transition timeline and milestones. So here we are at number 1 today, as you all elect to determine whether or not you want to partner with ADP. Moving forward, we would, assuming that you all did, which we would be honored to bring City of College Park on as a client, we would collect required documents, assign your ADP project management team, have an implementation kickoff call, and then start that process that I laid out of the data collection and the system configuration. And on the right side there, you'll see, again, a sample timeline that we created in conversations with Dr. Baker, and ideally a go live by July of 2021. And that is our presentation. I am open for any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Anyone from the body have questions?
I just have a comment. I just, you know, I thought it was a very well presented program. I was involved with HR for a long time, and I don't think I've seen anything this thorough. I was writing down questions as you were going through, and you were ticking those off and canceling them out just about as fast as I was writing them down. So it was a very nice presentation, and I think you cover an awful lot. My question was, you know, the data entry and how long it takes to get in there. Do you find that different? How different with different companies? Do you China and different cities? How do you figure your timeline?
So our deadline is based off of our experience, not only bringing on municipalities, but organizations of your size. And so, as I mentioned, that is a sample timeline because, I mean, you nailed it. There can be small nuances into the process, whether a specific system, but the good thing is, since we have been doing it for so long, we've worked with nearly every competitor, industry-specific system that's in the market. So very rarely, if ever, I'll say never in the almost 5 years that I've been here, have we found a situation where we weren't capable of extracting the data and then ensuring that we can customize it and get it set up to effectively use in that process. However, we will ensure that timeline is effective for you and your team, and really build that out together from that sample in that welcome kickoff call.
In the future, when conditions change, do you enter the information, or would we be entering the information, or would the employee be entering the information? I mean, let's just say I go to college, I get a college degree. Is it up to me to make sure that gets entered, or does the city do that, or do you do that?
Well, that's the beauty of the system. It can be all of the above or any of the three. With security level user access, you can have as many levels of security as you want. It's unlimited. So if you find that it's more effective for the city to allow employees to go into their own employee profile and include any certifications, then you can do that, or typically manager. But the workflow will notify the manager and HR, and then there's an audit trail. So you'll always know who made what change when. And if you find somebody has too little or too much access, you can always change that very easily. And we're always more than willing to help show you how to do that should you need any additional support.
No, that's all I had. Very good presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Allen.
Thank you
Any
for
other
your questions?
Mayor, I had a few questions.
All right.
I got a number of questions answered before the meeting, but now I have some more.
Okay.
When I look at your marketplace, where does Neogov fit into your marketplace?
Neogov, I would have to double check. So our marketplace are only companies that have a pre-built custom integration that they're offering to our client base, if you will. There's a Neogov would have to ask ADP to become a partner, and they could buy for the marketplace, and then we would take them through our security regiment to ensure that their security protocols meet our levels of security to ensure that we're always protecting our clients' data. And then at that time, they could enter the marketplace and set up that pre-built integration for any municipality to use moving forward. However, not every integration that we set up is in the marketplace. We offer bi-directional APIs that are always available when needed, and can help set up a custom data bridge that can help set up any data flows that are necessary.
Well, we have signed up, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, people, with Neogov for onboarding, recruiting and onboarding.
That's correct.
And I don't see them in the marketplace on here. I have it on my iPad and I just blew it up, and Neogov is not listed here. So that means
Correct.
It's not totally integrated. Let me ask, how about New World? We have a major database that covers everything. Is New World integrated with you?
Andrew, is probably Tyler
just,
Technology.
Pardon?
Oh, yes.
Tyler
yes.
Technology.
So sorry. So yes, we did discuss throughout the sales process the options to integrate with New World. We have a multitude of options, from an AES setup, an API, or could set up an import-export. And just to clarify one point from the previous question, many times when a Neogov or a New World is not in the marketplace, either our clients' IT resources can build out that API, or we offer partners who are also in the marketplace that can help build out those APIs. And AES, sorry, I'm getting a little bit acronym happy. AES is Automated Export Services, which is an easy way to get data from one system into the other that is very very affordable as opposed to building out a complete data bridge. So the short answer is we have the ability to help set up integrations whether or not your partner is currently in our marketplace. And based on the information, the data that you need to flow, we can recommend different options to ensure that that is effectively set up.
Well, we don't have a terribly good history of integrating different systems. And I'd like to know if Michael Hicks, IT person, Michael, are you familiar with what's been proposed here?
Yes, I am. And I'm eagerly waiting for us to set up the test environment.
Okay, so so what if we set up the test environment and find out that it is not terribly compatible and there's some major changes required? And what I worry about, we've got one database for onboarding, we've got another database for payroll, and yes, you can move the data between databases. But when I, as a manager, want to go in and look and see, well, the status of this person, do I have different apps that I have to go to, different interfaces that I have? This is a kind of a rhetorical question. I don't expect it necessarily to be answered right now. But these are the things I'm worried about, is integration. And we haven't had terribly good luck with that on a couple other occasions with other systems. No reflection on ADP, of course. I need to feel comfortable that we're in good shape there.
Very much. Oh, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, ADP has been doing this for a long, long time, and we are certainly going to make it work. Dr. Baker and I will have a conversation about whether he wants to continue to use onboarding through Neogov or he wants to use ADP. But the API, the application interface that ADP provides, is certainly going to work. Councilman Clay, what you referenced earlier is on the customer service, utility payment side.
I'm talking about Pitney Bowes,
Yes, yes. And
generation
again,
of reports.
absolutely, that is not a College Park issue.
All right, so it is 7:05. We have one more issue to discuss during our workshop session, and I know this is on our regular session for consideration as well. So I think we're going to have to move along. I know there's additional questions, but we can handle those during the regular session. And if there are additional considerations that we need to address. All
Yes,
right.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Broom,
Appreciate it.
thank y'all.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dixon, go ahead.
I was gonna just finish for Mr. Clay that last part. So just last thing on that to give you peace of mind. With ADP, it is all one database in Workforce Now. It's a non-binding agreement, and then we set up that sandbox environment in the implementation. So if it did get to the point where you and your team weren't comfortable, and you will not have invested any money at that point, and there won't be any termination clause risk, if you will. But as your coworkers mentioned, we have decades of experience in this, and so this is kind of par for the course in us, and we look forward to the opportunity of hopefully bringing you all as a client and helping improve some of your processes. Appreciate everyone's
All right.
time.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is back for a third time. My screen has gone.
Can I share my screen, Mr. Dixon?
Mr. Dixon, can you
Yeah.
allow Ms. Moore to?
Oh yes, let me give you all that back.
It's discussion of potential amendments to the alcoholic beverages ordinance governing alcohol sales in the city of College Park and establishments that do not typically serve food. All right, Ms. Miller or Mr. Denmark? I'm not sure who's heading up this conversation.
That would be Mr. Denmark.
All right, Mr. Denmark.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have presented you in your packet a chart, as the council requested, that does a comparison between what the city of College Park provides in terms of alcohol sales, on-premises consumption, and the required food sales. And we've compared that to other jurisdictions that neighbor the city and some that don't neighbor the city in terms of what they allow. The College Park regulations, and I know we're not even certain that the city is going to affect any changes in terms of what our ordinances currently provide, but to the extent you do, and for purposes of providing context and comparison, these other cities, their experiences, I think, is useful and enlightening. College Park has a number of different categories in terms of what we allow. The vast majority of alcohol sales are going to be classified in the restaurant category, where food sales are required, and we have the 51% of receipts must come from a food sales requirement. And that's the vast majority of what we're going to see in College Park. I mean, there are going to be few, if any, farm wineries, which we have listed, or private clubs. A few entities are going to qualify to be a private club in College Park. You have to be in operation for at least 8 years before you can even apply for that alcohol license. And I'm not sure very many are going to qualify there. So the meat of what we do in College Park is restaurants with a food sales requirement, as opposed to some of our neighboring jurisdictions. Like, for instance, Hapeville has a far more elaborate scheme for allowing alcohol sales within their jurisdiction. They, in addition to the restaurants, like everyone does, they have bed and breakfasts. They have requirements for growlers, microbreweries, breweries, all of which are defined, and they have varying approaches to the food sales requirement. For instance, a brew pub in Hapeville only requires 40% food sales, whereas in College Park we don't even allow or have that as a distinct category. And even if we did, there's no indication that we would allow any relief from the 51% food sales requirement. Hapeville also allows art galleries, which aren't even required to have food sales at all. And so you have far more categories in Hapeville than we do in College Park. And the food sale requirement is either not existent at all or less than what we allow for restaurants. Looking at East Point takes it even further than Hapeville, because they out and out allow bars, which we certainly do not in College Park. And only requirement for a bar in East Point is that they must make food sales available to patrons. And so there's not even a percentage of gross receipts that's tethered to the alcohol requirement. Like Hapeville, East Point allows brew pubs. And they also allow nightclubs where food sales are not required. And the principal business of a nightclub in East Point, they have to be must be entertainment as their principal business, and the serving of alcohol must be incidental there too. So there's no objective percentage requirement in terms of food sales as relates to nightclubs or bars in East Point. They even have tasting rooms where there's no food sale requirements, museums and botanical gardens, other uses that where alcohol is allowed either for sale or if it's not allowed to be sold, they can certainly serve alcohol with no food sales requirements. And so we can see what the experiences in East Point. We also looked at Atlanta, where it's, I couldn't find a single requirement for a percentage of gross revenues being linked to food sales in Atlanta. They have several different categories from government centers to performing art theaters to open air cafes and nightclubs, but none of those requirements have an objective requirement in terms of food sales being at a certain percentage of their gross revenues. So it's my hope that this chart provided some further context in terms of what other communities are doing and will allow the mayor and council to determine what, if anything, the city of College Park would like to do in terms of its revisiting of its alcohol requirements.
Mr. Denmark, I found it personally pretty helpful in terms of comparing where we are in relation to our neighbors. It looked to me like East Point took a lot from Atlanta, and because some of these things just wouldn't necessarily apply in East Point, but it looks like, the zoological park and such. It looked like it was fairly cut and paste from the city of Atlanta. Curious to know what the body is thinking after reviewing this information.
Well, I thought that they did an excellent job of summarizing the comparison. I had been talking about something slightly different, but a top-down approach rather than a bottom-up approach. But I thought this did an excellent job of showing us what the latitude is. What I worry about is, well, I worry about a bunch of things, but one thing I worry about is that with 6 West, College Park conceivably could implement all of these. We could take a consolidation of everything that East Point, Hapeville, and Atlanta, all the different uses, I mean now, and we could say, yeah, we could have that in College Park, we could have that, we could have that, we could have that, we could have that, and you go through the whole list. So, and we could make a case, well, Hapeville has this, and oh yeah, East Point has that, and Atlanta has that. And so if we want to be competitive with them, we need all those things. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Another thing that concerns me is that historically, and I'm probably, well, a couple of us on council have lived through this. We have had issues with some organizations, some businesses in the old National, Godby Road area that turned out to just be constantly in violation of our regulations. And it became very difficult for the police department to manage the situation there. We've said we don't have nightclubs. We don't want to have nightclubs. I don't think people want bars, but there's more and more incidences of problems being created by some kind of establishments that sell liquor. So I think one of the things I don't know how we apply an Occam's razor to this kind of thing, but I think maybe we could start by saying, what don't we want?
Right. And I think we've agreed we don't want bars, right? I think I think
so.
We've heard that we don't want bars, we don't want nightclubs. I've not heard anyone putting forth an argument for either one of those categories. I mean, largely what we've been discussing are businesses. Now, we haven't really talked too much in the last 3 meetings about this, about brew pubs and breweries that much, but we've largely been talking about businesses for whom alcohol sales would be an ancillary portion of said business. I saw that Alpharetta had something for a cigar bar, for instance, which I highlighted because we have a new cigar bar that, you know, as of right now, cannot sell alcohol unless they were to choose to turn into a restaurant as well. And just sort of, I mean, I know that we've had interest in 6 West from businesses, presumably that would be doing, that would want to probably serve alcohol as an ancillary part of their business. I think it helps us to get ahead of this because, I mean, I can think of 2 businesses right now that we've had discussions about that probably would not meet that 51% criteria, but most people would expect that they would be able to go there for a particular service and also have a drink. I think it behooves us to really dive deep into this. And I know that it's not all going to happen tonight, but to think broadly about how we lay the framework for this so that we're getting ahead of this, as opposed to having people come to us and say, I've got this business. I mean, we're kind of behind right now. I mean, the people have said, we have this business. We want to be able to operate in College Park, and can't do it. Can't do it here because we haven't been as flexible as some of our neighbors. I agree with you, Councilman Clay, that we should. It's not necessarily anything and everything that our neighbors are doing. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a right fit for us, but I think there is space, especially seeing what other people are doing, to kind of knock out the things, like you said, that we don't want to do. Bars and nightclubs, that's a no-go. But I think there's other space in which we could probably have some discussions. You know, the growler place in Hapeville thought about coming here. We don't have space for one right now in our current ordinances. Is that something we want to change? I don't know. I don't know what the thought of the body is about that. But that's just for a particular, you know, one particular item. But are there other types of businesses that we're not interested in? No bars, no nightclubs. Heard that loud and clear.
I'll pick one just because I happen to be thinking about it. Bowling alley. Do we want a bowling alley to be able to sell alcohol. We don't have a bowling alley that I know of in College Park. I don't know why I wouldn't want a bowling alley. I happen to like bowling alleys. And I don't know why we wouldn't allow one to have sell beer or something along that nature. That one of the problem is there are businesses that we can't even imagine.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought of a dog park wanting to sell alcohol, but fine. So one of the things, that's why I was earlier talked about a top-down approach, where if we said, and let me just throw something out. I could draw a chart, but if we said, all right, alcohol as an ancillary service, if whatever the business is, selling aircraft parts, if alcohol were an ancillary business or a service, what percentage would be the maximum percentage that we would sell, allow it to be of revenue? Because what we're trying to do, another way to ask this question, what don't we want us to be, for want of a better word, snookered by? In other words, someone says, well, I'm really selling aircraft parts, but they're a bar and we don't want bars. Right. So if we could say maybe a class 1 ancillary business is a business that has 80% of its revenue coming from something else and 20% of it comes from alcohol. A class 2 ancillary business, well, it's somewhere in there, a restaurant would fit in, right? A restaurant's primary business is supposed to be selling food.
Right.
But if it's in a class 2, which is a restaurant, let's say, then you can have 30% of its business maybe coming from alcohol. You see where I'm going with that?
I do see where you're going with that.
And that way we're not limiting ourselves to imagining all the possible business.
Right.
Well, I think you could take that a little bit further and say, do you want to say beer and wine at some locations and not hard liquor?
Great.
I think that's part of the conversation too.
Now that's definitely part of the conversation.
That's the percentage of alcohol, right? I mean,
right. And if you had a dog park and you had beer and wine, that's one thing. If you have hard liquor, that could be another. So
right.
I wouldn't want hard liquor, but that's just me.
Yeah. So I think that's a way to think about it. The percentage of primary business, percentage of alcoholic content, because sometimes you can come up with some pretty potent wine beverages, for example. I don't know. That's just another suggestion.
My guess is that we'll probably have to, if we're interested, even the class 1, class 2, I like that for most businesses. I think if the function of a business is to manufacture alcohol, it's probably going to be in a different class. If we're talking about a brewery or something along those lines.
Oh, you're talking about the urban farm. The urban farm is allowed to make wine.
Yes.
And
right. So, Mr. Denmark, in terms of drafting something along those sort of that tier.
Yeah.
Tell us what you would need from us in terms of trying to come up with something. A little bit more guidance from us.
If we're going with the multi-class approach, I think that's very workable, and that probably, to Councilman Clay's point, doesn't cause you to have to tax your imagination on the litany of businesses that there might be. We have ancillary uses. I get that piece, but the part that maybe I didn't follow quite so well is if creating alcohol is their primary use, like a brewery or a winery, are we saying that's yet a different category? And if so, how would they have more relaxed requirements? Maybe I'm following that piece.
Well, it's regulated differently for one thing.
Right.
If you buy your alcohol from someone else, that we can have a way of auditing it. If you make your own alcohol, then you have to keep track of how much hops they buy and how much, God knows what else goes into yeast, et cetera, that goes into alcohol.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily, and I didn't drill down super specifically on the microbreweries or the brewery regulations in cities, but perhaps we can get some guidance from what other cities have done in that regard.
Well, again, Mary, you can address it by alcoholic content. So we have to look at the, I think I don't have a problem with a brewery. I didn't have a problem with the farm making wine kind of thing. I think we have missed opportunities, and I certainly support doing that. We just need to think about how we can categorize this thing in ways so you can compartmentalize and you're not constantly having to review everybody that comes along kind of thing.
Absolutely. I agree.
What about districts as well? I mean, do you
What?
want to have, I mean, I'm just throwing out a childcare. You can't have it there with child, but if I had a childcare and I wanted to have beer and wine for people that stop by, you know, I mean, I wouldn't do that, or we wouldn't approve it, but you know, if something in the neighborhood, do you want to have a district that keeps it out of certain neighborhoods or areas?
We wouldn't necessarily prop a brewery in the middle of a residential district. Is that what you're saying,
Yeah.
Councilman Allen?
Well,
okay, yeah. I think we can all get behind that.
Somebody has
Right.
a house and they say, "Hey, I want to put a brewery back in my garage and start it up in the middle of the neighborhood." Well,
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
I think, Mayor, I think you can make a list of maybe, I don't know, say 10 to 12 factors. Whether you make or resell, whether it's your primary business or it's ancillary, what the alcoholic content is, whether you're going to have a food sale, whether you're going to have an age limit, are people all over 21 who come there? There's probably about 8 to 12 variables that you could list in a chart. You can do it a lot of different ways. You put an X in the box. Okay, for somebody that makes their own thing, will we allow alcoholic content of 100 proof? No. Okay, good. You see where I'm going with that. And I think that wouldn't be that hard to put together.
I think also the current people that serve alcohol should be part of the conversation, because to me, it affects their business as well, because they have different restrictions. So if the restrictions are different to other people, we got to make sure that it's like, do it have to be served by a bartender or someone with a liquor license, pouring hours? So I just think that they need to be part of the conversation, since that's their business already. They can help you figure it out.
And I'd add those to that list of factors.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
You might be impinging on their sales. Who knows?
Well, if nothing else, I'd like to employ their wisdom. They may know, oh, you don't want to do that, because if you do that, they will turn it into whatever.
Sure.
And you don't want whatever.
And you don't want a kid getting alcohol from somebody else's kid and they go, well, College Park said it was legal. So it's just a lot of.
Definitely don't want that. You're absolutely right. So there's a lot to consider with this. And I think that we probably need to continue that conversation and see if we can get some draft ideas around it as we work to craft something that makes sense for not only where we've been, but where we're going. It is 7:29 though, and as soon as it switches over to 7:30, we've got the regular session. And And it is 7:30. So we've got all 4 council members present. Welcome everyone to the regular session. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. Welcome to the City of College Park's regular session meeting. Calling the meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance, to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is our invocation. That will be led by Pastor Dent this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to be here. I'd like to mention that I thoroughly enjoyed the fun day at Zuck Park, and I think it was something so good for the community. So hats off to Ward 1 and everyone that attended. Let us pray. Dear God, we seek your help with our fears today. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence and help us to make the best use of our own. As a community, we are of diverse opinion, yet we wish to meet our differences with understanding and goodwill towards all. Please share your wisdom with our mayor and council members and help them to do right by all concerned and reach an agreement satisfactory for all during this council meeting. Lord, thank you for giving us dedicated public servants who work tirelessly to protect us. May you continue to bless and strengthen the staff of the city, our police officers, firefighters, and all first responders. We pray for the welfare of the city, families, and businesses, that you will prosper them, because if our city prospers, all will prosper. As a community, much has been sifted, the season has shifted, the curtain is lifted, so help us to move forward. Thank you for your heavenly blessing. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, in the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Item number 2 is additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda.
Hello, Madam Mayor. We would like to add item 6G, which is Andrea McConnell's graduation celebration. And we would like to remove item 8D.
I'm sorry. 6G, Andrea
McConnell graduation celebration.
Okay.
And we would like to remove item 8D, which is the request to upgrade the emergency sirens.
Okay, that is removed. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else to add or change? Hearing none, is there a motion for those 2 items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 3A is approval of regular session minutes dated May 3rd, 2021.
I move to approve as presented.
Give me one moment on this one. I think I had a line. Yes. Line. Well, I'm sorry, Councilman Clay. There is you made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. I've got a line 366 that is on page 14 of our packet. I meant to reach out to you, Ms. Moore. I don't, the word terminology there, line 366, the term terminology, can you take another look at that on the audio?
Will do.
Thank you very much, because I'm fairly certain that's not what I said there, but there has been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, that is unanimous. Item 3B, approval of the workshop session minutes from May 3rd.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, who was the second?
Aye.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. I'm sorry, you weren't on my screen, so I wasn't sure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 3C is approval of the budget meeting minutes from April 15th.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Unanimous as well. I don't believe we have any proclamations, resolutions, plaques, or announcements this evening. Is that correct? All right, hearing none. We'll move on to remarks of citizens. Ms. Moore?
Good evening. The first remark is from Ray Coleman. Starting my clock. And it reads, I'm asking the City of College Park Council to withhold the vote regarding the scholarship monies that have been held since the last mayor's ball. I am appalled that you would try to send this money back. It creates tax issues for some and doesn't seem well thought out. I'm sure we can still give the monies out as scholarships. Please allow us more time to come up with a positive way to help the students. If necessary, set up a temporary committee who can research and present two options that could be voted on. It appears that we often act before we look at all of our options. Thank you, Zena Ray Coleman. Okay. The next remark is from, okay, so that's the last email remark. I have two people that signed in to speak virtually, Jamil McKenzie and Michael Renee Daniels. Mr. Hicks.
Okay, got it. Jamil McKenzie, in that order, she's allowed to talk.
Okay, can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I am speaking today on item new business consideration of an action on the request to for approval to refund money that was donated for the mayor's ball held on November 10th. I'm deeply concerned about this item. I also heard Ray Coleman just now's letter. I'm appalled that these funds have not been used for the purpose that they were raised for in 2018. And as a result, we've had 2 years of high school graduations that have passed in our city, and not one graduate has been given scholarship money that was raised for them. This is an investment that should have been made into the youth of our community, and they have been denied. I object to the money being returned to the donors, regardless of who they may be, for several reasons. One, the need is still great in our community, and our high school seniors deserve this assistance. Second, the donors who gave may be inconvenienced to have to redo their taxes for 2018 or given 1099s for what they intended to have as a donation. And third, this idea within itself really makes our city look trifling. We need to use this money for our graduates. This is graduation week. Even in my program, I have 3 College Park High School seniors who will graduate this month in Birthright. And there are over 300 students graduating from Banneker, McLaren, and many others from Tri-Cities that are residents of our city who could be awarded some of these funds. It's a mistake to return this money. If the city does not have the ability or conscience to make sure this investment is made into our youth, my organization will identify recipients for you and get it done. Whatever the case is, it's taken 3 years, and no matter how long it takes, I'm requesting the city council to find a way to get these funds into the hands of our College Park youth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wanted to very briefly just address some of the redistricting activities being engaged in by Fulton County Schools, specifically the redistricting of Conley Hills Elementary, Paul D. West, and potentially Hateville, and having them redistricted as K-8 schools. Although I know K-8 promises some really great things: increased academic performance, increased parental involvement, lowered student mobility, which I think are all really great things. And putting everyone together in one school, also great if things work out the way as proposed by Fulton County Schools. One of the reasons they're citing is for decreased enrollment within the schools. And I don't know that they would really be able to achieve these things because the school district does not have an equity plan. And without an equity plan, it is difficult to promise those things in terms of great teachers, in terms of curriculum and textbooks and those sorts of things. And we don't have a real advocate on the Fulton County School Board. So we're depending on our local governments to step up and step in on our behalf. And as we see those lowering numbers of enrollment, we're seeing the same thing at Tri-Cities and Banneker. And if they're going to use that excuse for our elementary schools, I can only imagine that they will begin to target our high schools next. So if we're going to have affordable housing and draw people into the city, we're going to need to have schools that everyone could attend. So I'm just asking that as a city and our local government that we kind of look at this really clearly and make sure our voices are heard. For example, there was a parents' meeting held and all the parents were muted and we were not able to speak. We had to be unmuted at the discretion of the person who was in control. Of course, we want to keep everything nice and civil and we want everyone to speak in a way that is appropriate. But when you host a parent meeting and then you don't allow the parents to speak and our voices aren't heard, it can be very uncomfortable for us when we're trying to participate. So those are just some very brief comments I wanted to make, particularly on behalf of our elementary schools here in South Fulton, particularly when we don't have that representation on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Moore, I understand you have one additional.
Yes, I do. My apologies. I absolutely skipped over that one. This is from Louise Bridges. Start my timer. And it reads, Dear Ms. Miller, I appreciate you calling me back Monday to tell me that the City of College Park, Georgia Code Enforcement is handling the numerous code violations that exist at the old center and the old mall. While I appreciate you reaching out to me, your explanation as to how the owner of the old mall has been allowed to remain open despite the numerous code violations that code enforcement is handling it is simply not acceptable. As I mentioned, code enforcement has required Old National Market LLC, and to the best of my knowledge, all other businesses to reasonably comply with all current code requirements. However, for reasons known only to members of the City of College Park Code Enforcement Office and its employees, the owner of the old mall appears to be exempt from these costly and time-consuming requirements. As you know, I have written 4 letters over 5 months, and the City of College Park has done virtually nothing regarding the majority of these code violations, other than closing the old mall last December, not the old center, for about a week. As stated in my prior letter, it appears all of the following conditions still exist. Number 1, block rear drive lanes. As I stated in my prior letter, it has been over 7 weeks since I notified the City of College Park that the Michigan owner of the old National Village Shopping Center has allowed barricades to be placed blocking the fire lanes in the rear of the old center. These barricades have now been up for over 2.5 months, and despite the fact that the City of College Park has had actual knowledge of the existence of the barricades and the risk they could pose if there was a fire and the rescue vehicles could not access the rear of the old center. As we discussed, the blocking of the rear fire and drive lanes expressly violates the College Park, Georgia Municipal Code, specifically Section 7-20 of the code entitled Establishment of Fire Lanes on Private Property Devoted to Public Use. Number 2, non-working parking lot lights. The old center has been allowed to remain open for almost 1.5 years, even though most of the parking lights for the entire old center still do not work and have not worked at all during that time. The City of College Park has had actual knowledge of this fact since November 2019 and has not required the owner of the old mall to remedy the situation. This failure to provide proper lighting, as with the blocking of fire lanes, expressly violates the College Park, Georgia Municipal Code, specifically Section 3-20A of the College Park Municipal Code provides in the relevant part that all parking areas, walkways, vehicle entrances, and service loading areas shall provide area lighting sufficient to achieve a minimum of 2.4 candles of light as measured at grade or ground level. Number 3, electrical code violation. In the location where one of the parking lot lights have fallen down and was later after several months removed, that is time for that comment.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Mr. Hicks, can you keep an eye out. If there is anyone who wishes to speak and has not signed up, they may have 1 minute to do so.
Yes, ma'am. We have two people. First, Kathleen McQueen, and then Adria McConnell, in that order.
All right, Ms. McQueen.
Okay, Ms. McQueen.
Okay.
There you go. You got it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
How is everyone this evening? Mayor Motley, Broom, and council members, my name is Kathleen Queen. I reside at 1965 Lyle Avenue, Ward 1. I'm hoping you consider the innovation of containers as usable office structures. I was recently told change sometimes is not a good thing. When it comes to innovation, change is the springboard to great things to come. Architects have created masterpieces, starting with the structural shipping containers. There are amazing residential and commercial designs that melds into the aesthetics of neighborhoods and businesses.
Ms. McQueen,
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting you. This is actually on our agenda for public hearing.
Okay.
So if you would
I
prefer, you could and wait there.
That'll be great.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Ms. McConnell?
Okay. Ms. McConnell, you can unmute your mic.
Go ahead and unmute.
Hello, hi. Can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening all. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Thanks so much. I'm doing well. I am actually asking for special permission. I have rented or reserved 2 pavilions at Zelt Park for this upcoming Sunday, which is May 23rd. We will be hosting, when I say we, my family and I, we will be hosting a graduation party for all of the
And Ms. McConnell, this has been added to the agenda as well. This is item 6G.
Okay.
So just sit tight and we will be addressing that shortly.
No worries. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at public comment who hasn't signed up? You've got 1 minute. Go ahead and click that raise hand button if you'd like to do so. I'm sorry, I heard someone say something. Is that?
No, I muted that person, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I see one other hand that has gone up. Mr. Gibson, BJ Gibson.
Okay, Ms. Gibson, you're unmuted.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks for the time. I just wanted to give my public comment about the proposed development that's going on at the Harvard property for the containers and that development.
Mr. Gibson, let me interject. We are having a public hearing on that in a few minutes. And so at that time, we're happy to take comments in regard to that. And you'll actually have longer than a minute.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on any other items besides things that that we'll be addressing in a few minutes? You can go ahead and raise your hand. You'll have 1 minute. Seeing none, we're going to keep on moving forward. Item 6A. Consideration of an action on a request from the Life-Changing Ministries to hold a Gospel Tent Crusade on May 24th, 2021 through June 6th, 2021 from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. on the vacant land next to Phillips Park. Ms. Moore, are you leading the conversation on this one?
Yeah, they wanted to use the land next to Phillips Park to do a Gospel Tent Crusade. I'm not sure what the protocol would be since this item was discussed at the joint BITA meeting and voted on, if we had to bring it to our meeting as well to vote on it, or do we just kind of go with them?
Well, I believe that BITA voted not to approve.
Correct.
This event. So Mr. Denmark, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is BIDA's land. So if they say we can't, they can't use it for this purpose, then we don't have much to say about it. Would it, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, you are. So Biden's vote rendered it moot.
All right.
Okay, so no action taken.
All right, thank you very much. Item 6B, consideration of an action on a request from ATL to hold an outdoor family Juneteenth event on June 19th, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. at 3749 College Street. Ms. Moore?
Okay, yes, so this is another special event request from a new business here in College Park, ATL. They want to have street closures and they want to also have food trucks, which is the reason they're required to have a special event permit. I have Scott Corbin and Jovan Diaz that will be representing them. Mr. Hicks, if you see either one of them, you can let them on, but I'm open to questions and hopefully they can answer them or I can answer them for you.
All right, any questions for Ms. Moore on this event?
I got my question answered, Mayor,
all right,
and earlier, but one more just occurred to me. Have they secured the other tenants in that area? Is everybody in agreement? Or are they the sole tenant these days?
They, are they on? If not, I can answer for them. They have had a letter stating that everyone is on board for the event. It's kind of like a group thing. Everyone's kind of buying into what they're doing to have like a celebration.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I've asked the questions with regard to can people get into the power area and will anybody be impacted in the neighborhood and like in the housing authority and what have you? And the answers are all no. The only thing I would like to see is if they're College Street is a busy street. And could we put up some directional signs that say detour that just take them down Harvard and then across and come back on Columbia so that somebody coming down the street doesn't just get diverted out to Main Street, because we've got enough of a problem on Saturday afternoon with Main Street. That'd be the only thing I would question. I'm not making that mandatory. I'll support doing it. I'll even move to approve it, but I would like it. I'd like it considered.
all right. Anyone else?
I just had a curious question. This is going to be a restaurant, is that correct?
Tapas, yes.
Oh, okay. And they're going to have food trucks out there? Just curious, yes. Are the food trucks for kids or what are the food
It's a
trucks?
family-friendly event, so they're going to have one situation for kids and one for the adults. But there was a site plan that listed all of that, where it would be and all of it, how it would fall on the street.
Right, I saw that. It was just kind of curious that it was a restaurant and they were having food trucks as part of their program as a ribbon. But this is going to be a ribbon cutting at the same time, is that correct?
This particular permit is for the Juneteenth celebration of it. So this is like the family, celebration. And
it's a block party, a Juneteenth block party kind of.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Because it says regarding the ribbon cutting Juneteenth family event. So that was my question.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
To approve?
Yes.
Okay.
To approve.
All right. Just want to make sure we're all clear. Is there a second?
Good question.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. All right. 6C is a COVID-19 update. Dr. Baker, those numbers were looking pretty good.
Yes, ma'am, they are. Happy to report we have 2 cases of COVID in our workforce, and recently conducted a survey. We had about 74 employees to respond out of a 400 employee workforce, but 60 employees have already been vaccinated. and that's with both shots. So we're headed in the right direction. We just need to continue to engage employees and make sure that they get their vaccinations. That's all I have to report.
Any questions for Dr. Baker?
No.
All right, hearing none, thank you so much.
It's good news.
Yes. Items D, E, and F all involve our Director of Finance and Accounting, Ms. Althea Fullard-Bradley. Item D is 6D is a discussion and update on the top 10 delinquent property taxpayers. Any questions for Ms. Fullard-Bradley in regard to that information?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6E, discussion and update on top 10 delinquent utility customer accounts. Any questions for her on that issue?
No.
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6F, Utility Assistance Grant Program update. Ms. Fullard-Bradley, it looks like there have been some increases in getting money out to people who need it.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. To date, since we've opened up the second phase of receiving applications, we've received 24 collectively. But we close on Friday. The phase 2 closes on Friday, so we're asking the residents to please get your application in. We are in communication with the county to see if we can open it up a little more for our senior citizens on how we can get those funds to them as well. Because at this time they are requesting that that we take receive another 100,000, but if they don't open up the application process, we don't see how we can distribute those funds with the residents are not applying as we would hope they would. So we're asking everyone to get your applications in so we can review them and get you some money.
Would there be an opportunity perhaps to let people know sometime this week via Code Red that this is the last week, or
we're going to have to open up phase 3 because it's we just have about 200,000 still remaining, and they're requesting that we take an additional 100,000. So we will be opening up a third phase to get more applications in. So we'll put that out as well on the bills. We'll go about creating flyers and inserts so that they can receive that information.
Well, I will let you know that at our last Fulton County Mayor's meeting, the county is experiencing some of the same difficulties that we have had. And I let them know I wasn't particularly surprised given how things had rolled out for us, and that just a number of the same problems: incomplete applications, people who didn't live in areas that were eligible, couldn't demonstrate impact from COVID, et cetera, and that need for applicants to have some one-on-one assistance to get through the application itself. So I asked them if they found ways to streamline the program, that they communicate to us as well, if they found ways to make that work a little bit better. So hopefully we'll hear from them about that. But no, it's not just us.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Fullard-Bradley?
No.
All right, moving on. Item 6G added to the agenda was in regard to the McConnell graduation celebration. And I know that Ms. McConnell was on, and so Ms. Miller, are you prepared to? Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Still here.
Oh, I know, Ms. McConnell, I know you're still here. I just wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of information from city staff before we proceeded.
Oh, no worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is another special event request to have food trucks over at Zup Park on Sunday, May 23rd for a graduation celebration. This request was received last week. The applicant did not realize that she needed to submit a request for food trucks and had already previously secured the food trucks to be at Zup Park. So this is the reason why it's been added onto the agenda in the time frame, and she's available for any questions.
How many food trucks, Ms. McConnell?
A total of 3.
How many people are you expecting at this event?
between 50 and 75, and it is a family style event. We are hosting a graduation party for all of the graduates in our family, ranging from kindergarten to college. So we just decided to do the food trucks in light of COVID-19, so we could, just have our family walk up to get the food from food trucks.
And what's the time? What's the time frame?
We're gonna start setting up around the 12 p.m. hour. The party is gonna start by 2, and it is going to conclude by 8. However, the food truck hours are from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
We're just talking 2 hours for the food trucks. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. McConnell?
I don't remember in our current ordinance what the assembly limit is for an event in the park without some sort of city supervision involved. Does anybody know that? I know it's just a family event.
Yeah, I actually, per the Park and Recreation Department that I made the reservations with, they told me that a park ranger would be included for the pavilion rental. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or helps.
Yeah, I'm not worried about your event.
Okay.
But what I'm worried about is consistency with other people that want to have events, and to say, well, this event is a family graduation party. Well, my event is the Wiggy Wag organization of Slobovia, and they want to have something similar with 3 food trucks and so forth and so on. And we have to be consistent with that. That's all.
Michelle Johnson, would you like for Michelle to get you an answer, Councilman Clay, would you like for Michelle Johnson to answer your question?
Yeah, if she's on.
Councilman Clay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, it is for residents only. We don't, when we do reservations, we don't put a max on. We ask, how many people they're going to have there. Up to 10 people, at least 10 persons for a common area event, is considered at the public park for the recreation grounds as part of the ordinance. But anything that's going to be advertised or put out to the public would be where it would need to go in front of mayor and council. So people do reserve the parks for, the pavilions.
Okay, so I just want to make sure because we changed those guidelines several times over the last several years. And I just want to make sure we're meeting our own guidelines. Otherwise, we'll get ourselves in trouble later on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions?
I'll move to approve.
All right. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Clay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Gay, did you?
Aye.
Okay. All right. That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, Ms. McConnell, and congratulations to everyone in your family.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Have a good evening. All right. So item 7A, the first of our public hearings to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. This is the first of 2 public hearings scheduled to receive public comment. Second will be held at our next meeting on June 7th. So at this time, I will declare the public hearing open on the issue of the budget. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I have one correction on the agenda memo.
Okay.
Under background, the general funds budget is $32,473,296, and the remaining funds equate to $100,112,182. On the memo, I have 110 million, so it's 100,112,182. The resolution is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, for those folks who would wish to comment on our budget, and only the budget, we're only talking the budget right now. Got another public hearing coming up after this, but if you wish to speak on the budget, have the opportunity. Ms. Moore, can you tell people how they can log in?
Sure, they can go to www.collegeparkga.com. In the green strip at the top of the page, they can click on council meetings. In about the middle of the page, you will see a link there for public hearings. Click on that link to access the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, raise your hand and you will be acknowledged to leave your comment.
All right. Thank you so much. If you wish to speak on our budget, feel free. Go ahead, raise your hand at this time. I declare the public hearing open. And Mr. Hicks, as always, I know both of our eyes are looking at the chat and trying to see if anyone wishes to speak.
No one thus far.
All right, we'll give it a little bit more time here to make sure that people have the opportunity if they so wish. But if you wish, you can speak to us on June 7th about the same issue, but we'll give it a little bit more time here.
No one yet.
All right. Seeing no comments on item 7A, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed on that matter, and we'll move on to item 7B. Public hearing to request a conditional use permit at 1930 Harvard Avenue. The city planner recommends consideration of the submitted application based on mayor and council's desire for this type of construction.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
Excuse
evening.
me. Excuse my laryngitis, I apologize. The subject parcel is 1930 Harvard Avenue. The applicant has an existing business on the property, a co-working space. And the applicant the petition for the conditional use is to use container buildings to expand their business further. The reason it comes to you as a conditional use is the zoning code specifies architectural standards and materials, but it's silent on this matter. And as a matter of policy then, city planner presented to you some findings of fact so that your policy decision would be made based on your own judgment of it, since we don't have guidance within the code. So hence the need for a conditional use permit to come before you. I have one amendment to the report, and I apologize. There was, and if you do consider approval, we did prepare some conditions that you may wish to impose on the applicant. Condition number 1 that we recommended is missing the word "not," and specifically in this sentence reads, "and additional buildings are not added without prior approval." So we are recommending no new buildings. If you approve this, no new buildings would be allowed unless they came back before you. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I apologize. It was a type.
I thought it probably was not when I read it.
Thank you. And so
anything else, Ms. Alexander? Okay. All right. Any questions for Ms. Alexander, or do we have a representative of the applicant here? I've got 2 hands raised, Mr. Giroff and Mr. Brown. Okay. All right. And it looks like they are unmuted. So do either of you have anything you'd like to add?
Hey guys, this is Jacob. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So is this, just as a point of clarification, is this where I don't know how much time we have, or?
We are not really time limited here. But if there's anything that you'd like to add in terms of to help us learn a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've got some comments prepared. So just want to make sure this is the right time. So, so yes, thank you guys for allowing us to come. And we've worked pretty extensively with Michelle and Nikki, and we've met with as many council people as we could, and different citizens, residents, and members. Some of our members are actually residents of College Park, and some aren't. And so what we try to do is get as much feedback as we had. As Michelle was saying, we studied this code pretty extensively, and it was silent. And we wanted to make sure we could get everyone on board, because I know there's been some history here. History with this type of construction. So we are looking to expand. What co-working is it's a combination of private and private offices and communal workspaces. And it allows people to work in a if they want to work in a communal environment, you have that option. If you want your own private office, you've got that option. It's full service. So we cover utilities, internet. We've got coffee and refreshments and snacks. So when you're coming, it allows you the flexibility to, if you need an office for a couple of months, you have that option. If you want to go longer term, there's an option to do that. So it's a cross section of office space and services that isn't really met by either larger scale office buildings or even some of the somewhat smaller spaces we have. We kind of got stuck in COVID. It was a little bit slow. We came out of COVID, and there's been a lot of demand for this product. Preston Brown, who's on, has helped us and joined our team, and he's been managing it. And we're having to turn away people who are looking for just this type of affordable office space. And, these are folks that are either already in our community, or potentially, we look and we can be a destination where you've got the office space down there, and then down the street, you've got the lively elements of Main Street, the restaurants, MARTA. So those dynamics have caused us to say, well, can we expand? How would it work? What does it look like? As you all probably know, on multiple fronts, the rising construction costs, the variability that is already inherent in the construction process, but now with costs doing what they're doing, we kind of took it off the table until we came across this type of construction process, the modular construction using shipping containers or shipping container-like buildings. And they're really just steel, like a steel frame, steel structure. And they are prefabricated. So there's an efficiency both in cost and time, and not just an efficiency, but you get a certainty of timing that, again, sometimes just with the normal construction process, you don't have, because you run into things, you have labor problems, and all those things are enhanced right now. So this particular construction methodology reduces down that risk. And so it got us to where we're going, hey, this could be an option. Aesthetically, what we're trying to do is blend some of the traditional and, this kind of a modern steel glass building look. And so I think you have in your materials some of the conceptual renderings that we're looking at, where we'll have, kind of an extension around the back part of the property with a courtyard. When we met with both the Main Street Board and Planning Commission, I think all of us were on the same page in terms of landscaping and art that would tie all that space in better. And we're definitely on board with that. So that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to expand to create that affordable office space, affordable and flexible office space that, is good for entrepreneurs. It's good for people, especially now in this kind of post-COVID or post-COVID world, where there's more people working from home. It does allow that affordability piece. So, it's one of those that it allows people the opportunity to stay in our area and work in a professional setting. And we're looking to meet that with this type of construction process. And, we're very sensitive to the aesthetics. We have a track record of both living in the city, working in the city, investing in the city. And I live around the corner at 1846 Virginia Avenue. So we're very sensitive to both how the space will look and how it plugs into the bigger picture downtown. And so that's part of the reason we wanted to go through this process. So yeah, we thank you for your consideration and hope for a positive vote so we can get going.
All right. Any questions from council?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Ken.
Councilman Allen, go ahead.
Okay. There's several drawings in the packet that we got, and I just didn't know, are you going to have windows in here at all?
Yeah, so there's going to be, and Tony, I think our architect is on and he can speak to some of the design. Yeah, so there's a couple of different options we're looking at, and based on the way the space is configured. So some of the spaces where there's going to be more smaller offices, they're all going to have a door, and the door will be glass. And so that will be, and it's a 2-panel door. And so then on some of those, you might have almost the entire box that's 4 or 5 doors. And then there's probably some design elements that we just haven't been able to flesh out because we've been focusing on getting through this process. But yeah, so that primarily we're going to, the glass doors, and I imagine there'll be some mixtures of windows in and around depending on the office configuration.
What about, I'm concerned if somebody's inside and there's a fire, are there going to be sprinkler systems, or is that a requirement?
I don't actually technically know. I'm going to see. So our architect's name is Tony, and he might be able to better answer that one.
Is that Tony Pope?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
He's on raised his hand.
Hello. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Due to the scale of this project, sprinklers are not required, but each of the offices has a direct connection to the outdoors. And we have also created a pathway so in which, in case of evacuation, we can move people out of the campus and out of the courtyard down to Victoria.
But they're direct, is that going to be the door, their direct entrance? Is that going to
Correct.
be just the door, no other?
Correct.
So the door is the only way in and door is the only way out. Okay.
Yes.
What about ventilation, air conditioning, heating in the wintertime? How is that going to be?
The structures are all insulated, similar to traditional construction. So when you're thinking about this, just eliminate the container idea. It's just an office. It's well insulated, thermal and volume. We actually have put some additional insulation on the roof to assist with acoustical absorption of airplane noise. We have a mechanical system and HVAC that will provide heating and air to each of the suites, along with dehumidification.
Any other questions, Councilman Allen?
No, that's the only one. All the doors will be glass.
Yes.
No, but that's the only questions I had.
All right, Councilman Clay.
Yes. Well, you guys have seen my questions, and we had a Zoom meeting last week. You heard some of them then. One of my biggest concerns was aircraft noise. And as I shared with Mayor and Council and Jacob, hopefully you shared it with JoJo and Tony, the analysis that I did on Sunday, I went out and made measurements with my equipment on the overhead flights departing for about an hour and 15 minutes. And originally I had thought that we probably should ask for you guys to have really good sound insulation. But since you don't have a sleep requirement, you can't live there. That's illegal in that area anyhow. So I think you need adequate noise insulation, at least probably not 35 dB, but probably on the order of 25 to 30 dB. I don't know whether we can make that part of the requirement, but that would be my advice. And I'd suggest you contact a real certified acoustical engineer. I know a lot, but I'm not a certified engineer. So that's one issue. Ventilation is a big concern for me. You said you would have heating and air, but the split units that you are using in that have a cooling coil that you mount on the wall, and you drill holes in there for both the liquid and the gaseous freon to the air conditioning unit. But there is no actual ventilation fan that draws air in from the outside. Is that correct?
No, we're going to use a different type of cassette system. So it will be a ceiling mounted, roof mounted unit, smaller unit that will then duct. We're going to use a system that's going to be ducted air to each of the suites.
Okay, so you changed that.
We had to look at price because each box has 5 suites, and that was 5 micro units on the wall, and we found that it was more cost effective to use a larger system. They actually make a new product that's ducted and will actually introduce fresh air. So I think we took your advice. This is one of the comments that came up, so we did some research last week. So we're changing that direction.
Okay, I don't know where we cross over the boundary. I need help from staff on this, between building inspection requirements and planning requirements. But I would think the construction with no ventilation, which is the way it was originally, and the way I think the office that you showed me was on video, with no ventilation except through that one door, I don't think, maybe we allow it now, but I question whether we should allow that as a building code going forward. So that's one issue. The other issue is that the drawings that we're going by for appearance and that match with the planning commission requirements that the city planner laid out a few minutes ago, those are your drawings, the computer generated drawings that you have in white. The buildings are in white and say Revival on the side. You also have in our packet a brochure that's beautiful. The redwood trellis structure outside, the giant glass windows in the side of the containers, although I question how that'll go along with aircraft noise. They have a vastly different look than a U-shaped configuration of 20-foot containers, look like 20 foot anyhow, arranged with some cladding on them. So I'm a little concerned about appearance, and I'm a little concerned about setting a building standard that could make these available on a large basis. In other words, not just you, but your neighbor and their neighbor and what have you. I'm concerned from a planning look of having a whole city block, perhaps, of container structures that sort of could, even though it has nice cladding on it, could look like a wide trailer park kind of configuration. Now, I supported containers in the past. We had a very innovative, and I agree with the comments that were made earlier in the meeting, that containers can be very innovative, the structure, and even you show in your brochure with the glass, large glass panels. So as a basic form of construction, they can be made, I think, very acceptable. I'm a little dubious about replicating too many installations with the kind of configuration you're talking about, even though the outside of the buildings are made to look much better. They don't look like a ribbed container. So those, but as far as the airplane noise that I was so worried about, I think you may have issues with vibration, but I can't attest to that. I think if you do a good job of insulation for heat, and the building is relatively well sealed, and the vents in the ventilation system are well sealed, I think you'll achieve at least 20 dB on the building structure. And if you could up it a little bit, this is more advice than a requirement from my standpoint. I think Michelle probably feels more comfortable with that too. I think that's where I am on it.
Thanks, Ambrose. Just a couple.
Go ahead, Mr. Neogov.
I was going to say on the, so yeah, on the sound, the research we did, to your point, I think the materials are going to get us there. And yeah, we agree that we have to solve for that so that we have a market of people that want to come and work there. Because if it's too loud, then, folks won't want to stick around and work there. On the look, I did notice that, I guess, Michelle's recommendation, or the recommendation she put forward, to have a landscape plan review process. And so I think you're right in that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
So the part of what we're dealing with is just, the consequence of time and trying to get the materials in. And we're feeling an urgency because of the process, because of construction costs. And so our goal was to get through this process as quickly as possible, while, also trying to do the best that we could. And so some of that, I don't think we can incorporate the entire design process, and therefore in that conceptual planning, the renderings and stuff. So and then even after the submission, Tony was able to do a couple other things to just make the look and feel better. So I think that's one part. The second part is the recommendation Michelle's putting forward helps solve for some of the landscaping and the look and the feel that you're talking about. Because again, I agree, we don't want to see a bad product down the road, and we certainly don't want to be the people that cause that. And the third thing is, I think the way this is set up right now, this isn't really opening the door to anything technically, because we're it's like a single use that we're putting in for. So, but we'll let Michelle speak to the technicality of that. So,
Councilman Clay, did you have any other questions?
No, I've beaten this to death over the last several days, so I'm good. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other members of council have any other questions?
I have one quick follow-up. You mentioned 5 units to a container.
Yes.
And I think Councilman Clay said he thought that the tank containers were 20 foot. We're talking about 4 or 5 foot wide. How wide what are the size of the office, I guess, is what I'm.
These are 40-foot containers.
Okay.
And 2 containers will have 5 suites. 1 container will have 4.
Okay.
So they'll be what, about 8 by 10?
Correct.
In the 5 suite.
Correct. Now, I do want to, you made one comment about the ventilation system. Now, the original ventilation system that we had proposed with the micro splits, that system is a compliant system with the IBC code and is compliant with ASHRAE requirements for air exchanges, heating, and airing. Now, we use that system in our container park over in Atlanta, and it's been used in container buildings across the country. And as a proven system, we have changed the model and approach to the HVA system so that we could address dehumidification. But we have always been planning on providing adequate comfort in terms of heat and air and movement and air in a box. In the suites.
But Tony, you never had the ability to draw air in through the wall of the building behind the cooling unit, did you?
No, the air circulates when you open the door. Right. Other than that, it's filtered air.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from council? Hearing none at this time, I will go ahead and declare the public hearing open. If you wish to provide input at this time, you can go ahead and raise your hand. All right, I'm seeing one, Mr. Gibson.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I received several comments via email regarding this specific item.
Okay.
Can I go ahead and start?
Sure. Go right ahead. Why don't we let the folks who are here in person go ahead and speak. If you wish to speak on this particular issue, go ahead and click that raise hand button. I see Mr. Gibson. I saw you first, sir, so go right ahead.
Okay, thank you guys for allowing me to jump on. Just wanted to speak because I'm actually a member of the existing space that's there and have been there, for about a year now as a member. It's a great space as far as airport noise. I've never really heard any disturbance of noise as a structure that is there today. I understand that's a concern, but I think it'd be a great place. It is almost pretty much at capacity every day. And so there's a lot of draw for the space. I think it's a great place for people just to come that are from College Park, but people who are outside of College Park to come in and get to experience our city. And so I'm supportive of it. And I just wanted to make my comments known publicly.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Ms. Silverman? Cassandra Silverman, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, yes, I am also a member here at Revival Co-working. I do not have my own office, but they have a open common area where you can work. I'm a student as well as a paralegal part-time, and because of COVID, our school's library and the building shut down, so I could no longer go inside to study. So I'm really hoping you guys approve the addition because I would like to get my own office. In addition to that, I have some colleagues who are interested, who are business owners who had to shut down and leave their business because of the pandemic. So I just really feel like this place is just the perfect environment for business owners, small business owners to get back on their feet so they can get back out in the market. It's been very helpful. It's a very peaceful environment. Instead of me going to Starbucks, I can come here, work, have coffee, and it's peaceful. It is a lot of people are here throughout the week. So I'm just hoping that the addition is approved so that I could get my own personal office and that others will be able to do so as well. It's affordable, it's reasonable, it's perfect location. And so I don't have any issues either with the sound. Sounds perfect to me. It's pretty quiet. So I'm just wanted to make my voice heard, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Baines?
Hello, thank you. My name is Brandon Baines. I'm actually a tenant at Revival co-working space. And like many of the other tenants there at Revival, my experience there has been nothing but amazing. And just me being a small business owner, I actually do have an office, well, 2 office suites there for my brokerage. And from my experience, me trying to find a space that was suitable, affordable, as well as essential for small businesses because of what happened to COVID, not allowing my agents to be able to work in different areas. I actually found that space very resourceful. It gave me an opportunity to meet, as well as allowing some of my partners to even come and do like motherhood events and stuff like that, because Revival did allow us to utilize their space because we are we use it as a rental space. I mean, not a rental space, but as our office. So being able to log that place in and being able to bring opportunity for others to be able to conform and work with and try to get their message out. I just think that it will really help, especially with them trying to do the outdoor space. That was a big part of me joining Revival, was because they were considering doing an outdoor expansion in the future, so that people can congregate and have the opportunity. So I just want to say I'm kind of for it. I don't live in College Park, but I live not that far in Hapeville. So just want to say that I think this is a great opportunity, and those type of structures I think is coming to the future, in my opinion. Thanks. That was all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Does anyone else wish to speak? Just go ahead and click that raise hand button.
I'm looking.
All right, we got one more. Who is that?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Hello. Hi. I am also a Revival member, and I cannot say enough good things about it. Pretty much like everyone has said, it's really a great space to utilize. It's a great resource. The owners have been amazing. Preston has gone above and beyond for us in assisting with all of our needs and just helping us. I think that they are really focused on ensuring that they are a part of the community and that they help, like Brandon said, small businesses grow and succeed. And so I'm definitely on board, and I hope that they are approved for the expansion as well. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this issue? Just click that raise hand button. Going once. Going twice. All right, declaring the public hearing closed.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, gosh darn it. I am not declaring the public hearing closed. I apologize, Ms. Moore. You had some written comments. Please go ahead.
Okay, the first one is from Jennifer Duncanson. It reads, I have lived in College Park for over 7 years now, a homeowner in Ward 4 for 3.5 of those years. During my time here, I have been very pleased to see how the community continues to expand and develop. One of the commercial properties I'm most recently excited about is the new Revival co-working space. Having a place like this is so close to home is a huge benefit to someone like myself who even before COVID worked remote. I love the ability to have an option that doesn't require me to drive all the way to Midtown just to find a wonderful, aesthetically pleasing, peaceful location outside my home to work. I have used this wonderful location several times and am never disappointed. When I need a quiet, this is perfect. When I need a conference room, I don't need to look far. When I just want to have a different scenery, 10 minutes or less, there's Revival. This has been such a great addition to our wonderful College Park community. I have caught wind that they are looking to expand, which has me excited. The potential of a courtyard with container offices is something that will add such uniqueness to an already unique area. Knowing the work I have seen these gentlemen do gives me full confidence that it will be nothing short of amazing. I can totally see this being another place to visit when you are in Atlanta College Park, and I can't wait. Best, Jennifer Duncanson, Ward 4. The next comment is from Ben Brown, and it reads, to whom it may concern, personally, as a part-time resident of both Metro Atlanta, Georgia, and Metro Denver, Colorado, I would love to see more innovative construction methods employed in the Atlanta area. My understanding is that an opportunity for development using Connex shipping containers as the framework, and I'd like to show my support. My company's primary focus is engineering and building steel structures. We have built multi-story structures out of used shipping containers and have had nothing but positive experiences with them. I have never had nor heard of issues with vibrations or acoustics that would be inherent to these type of structures. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me anytime. Ben Brown, President, BCS Fab / Joe Schroed. Okay. The next comment is from Bo, and it reads, I am in favor of the use of containers for business use and think this could be a smart use of land and create business opportunities. The next comment is from Kathleen McQueen, and it reads, I am hoping you consider the innovation of containers as creative office structures. I was recently told change sometimes is not a good thing. When it comes to innovation, change is the springboard to great things to come. Architects have created masterpieces starting with the structure of shipping containers. There are amazing residential and commercial designs that melds districts. In the Buckhead Da Vinci Donuts located in the southwest corner of the parking lot has a cool design that has an outdoor sitting area. Nothing about it tells you it was a shipping container. I think of the mayor and council as a melting pot of minds that should blend together to see a great vision for the city. We have a legal mind, agricultural expertise, scientific vision, corporate mind, and a people motivator on our board. College Park should be a leader in innovative thinking. Let's make this a city where creative ideas are welcome. Kind regards, Kathleen McQueen. And the last comment is from Alicia Houston, and it reads, Madam Mayor, Council, and Artie, hope all of you and your loved ones are healthy and well. I know you're headed into a meeting shortly to discuss, approve, Revival Properties variance on building materials for their expansion of their co-working space of their property located at 1930 Harvard. I just want to give you some feedback / my opinion as a local broker and one of the tenants in the Revival building. I spent a year at the forum before coming to the Revival building. I had some rather severe landlord difficulties as a tenant at the forum. My office never had heat or AC, and the owner landlord refused to fix it, allow a space heater, or accommodate my request for reasonable accommodation as a disabled veteran to find and fix myself. There were multiple breaches of landlord-tenant law that happened there. I just chose to leave and not renew my lease rather than pursue them. That's how I ended up in the Revival building on Harvard. I was looking for a new home for my College Park office as a local small business owner. My firm is in Buckhead, but I do a lot of hyper-local business down near where I live in the Links and keep my office close to home. There are a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners in our city that, like me, don't want to need large, expensive Class A office space or expensive frontage along Main Street. This is evidenced by how quickly spaces like the Forum and Revival's private offices are rented and how long the wait is for such space. I am working diligently on addressing the need for smaller.
No, I already did my part.
Mr. Latona, can you go ahead and mute, please?
I am working diligently on addressing the need for smaller, more affordable spaces in College Park for both business owners like me and homeowners that need homes that they can afford to own, but that aren't cheaply built like my D.H.R. Horton house. So are Jacob and JoJo and Preston at Revival. In them, I have definitely found kindred spirits. Jacob has lived in College Park since 2005 and done a great deal of real estate business around here. Not just that, I want you to know.
Councilman Gay, can you go ahead and mute, please? Thank you.
That they have my complete endorsement as to how they do business in our city. They have a dream come true as a landlord. They have been a dream come true as a landlord, making sure my office and the Revival building are always perfectly cared for. From clean facilities and heat to a fully stocked coffee bar and conference room with top tier AV capabilities, I have everything I need to both get out of the house to get to work done, key those days when so many people at home, LOL, and to host clients in a space I'm proud to call my office. I couldn't do that when my office was 52 degrees in the middle of winter. I know Revival is looking to use prefabricated modular buildings made of steel and glass to create an extended courtyard and more offices behind the current building on the land they own. I wholeheartedly support the expansion. I've actually been doing a lot of research into modular housing, pre-built in a factory and then brought on site in just a few large pieces. With the prices of lumber up over 200%, kind of like gas is right now, stick-built properties like this cost more than makes sense from a development perspective. Modular buildings, believe it or not, also are of a much higher quality control standard than buildings built on site. Most of you know what I'm going through with my DHR Horton house that was built 2.5 inches crooked. Had to be reconstructed, and that I'm still trying to get DH Horton to fix the ripple effects of all their substandard work. With modular building, we don't get any of that because we have to meet strict manufacturing standards for quality and uniformity before they are allowed off the assembly line. They are also much more affordable. I'm planning to use modular housing as a way to bring workforce housing people can afford to our city here in College Park. Some of these steel glass buildings can look very metallic and brightly colored, modern, or be bare bones metal without much insulation or climate control. But others can be like a fully built and insulated tiny home, but instead built out inside to be an office, coffee shop, any number of configurations. Jacob tells me they plan to build the latter, and I have been very impressed with what they did at the Revival building. I never hear airplanes or noise from outside except for the recycling trucks that come to empty the dumpsters outside my office window. My climate control is amazing, unlike what I endured at the Forum in the old building, whose HVAC system on the other side of the building never got any heat or cooled air in my office. I have no doubt Jacob, JoJo, and Preston will do just a wonderful job with the expansion that they have my complete support as to how the business will with great integrity and expertise. Thanks in advance for considering and approving their expansion and working out a solution for any climate insulation needs the metal glass building needs. I look forward to continuing my work with all of our businesses, owners, and residents. Have real estate to call home as I get my work handled from my cozy office at Revival. Smiley face. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? I'm sorry? Thought I heard someone else speak. Anyone else wish to speak during this public hearing? All right, I'm declaring it closed at this time. Is there a motion?
I will move to approve it, subject to the resolution that's been put together. But that requires that the plan come back for review. Is that correct? Michelle?
The plan would not come back before council. This is a conditional use permit.
It would come back for a review with you, wouldn't it?
Correct. And it would also for building permitting and then as well as compliance for the zoning conditions.
Okay. So with that understanding, I will move to approve it.
Is there a second?
With conditions.
With the conditions that are in the resolution?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. All right, that is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 8A, presentation on the scope of work by Petry Government Relations for the 2021 Georgia legislative session and consideration of the renewal of a legislative representation agreement between the City of College Park and PGR.
Good evening.
Good
evening,
Bolia?
Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Myers. Good evening, Mr. Bolia.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity, Madam Mayor, Council, to be here this evening. I have with me my team from Peachtree Government Relations, as well as our partner, Ohio River South, on this project. We are very excited to been working with you all for the last several years, and we've got an exciting report to give. We'll be very brief. I know you've had a long evening, so if Mr. Myers could run the PowerPoint, we'll be glad to quickly run through it and let you all get back to your meeting. House Bill 160. As you know, this is something we've worked on, and I want to do a special thanks to Mayor Motley Broom for all of her hard work. She spent a lot of time down in the Capitol getting votes, cajoling legislators, working this legislation, making sure the governor signed it. So it was quite an arduous process, and we've been working on it for 3+ years. And I know y'all been working on it for, I think, excess of 5 to 6 years. So a special thank you also to Jackson Myers. He put a lot of time and effort into this. So we really appreciate all the effort and all the help we got. It was passed on a bipartisan basis, almost unanimous in the House, and with a strong supermajority in the Senate. It was signed on May 10th by Governor Kemp. And as you all know, this bill would allow cities with a wastewater system that interconnects with other city wastewater systems that has a water flow of more than 85 million gallons per day to levy a sales tax per a referendum by the voters in that city. Next slide, please. I don't know if Howard had any comments on 160 before we went on to the other two bills we wanted to highlight today.
No, go ahead, Don.
Okay. So just there are many bills that we looked at, and if you've seen our weekly reports, hopefully they were helpful to you in keeping track of what's going down in the General Assembly. But we just thought two quick bills we just highlight. One is House Bill 273. So as you're building out your downtown College Park, you saw this years ago with those who were making or brewing beer. It's difficult to sort of enhance that if you had to sell through the 3-tier system, which means you have to sell it to a distributor, and then they literally bring it back to your store. This allows you to have a distiller in your city, and they could distill the whiskey or whatever other alcohol they wanted to make, and then they can sell and also give away those products on premises. So this is, I think, a unique thing for a lot of cities are interested in this because I think it allows them to create a unique experience in their downtown area. And so we think this is something that College Park may want to take a look at as they go forward and develop downtown. The next bill is Senate Bill 49, and I'll let Laura Norton, who's on the line and part of the team, explain this bill. I think Laura's on the line. Maybe she jumped off. This bill simply codifies plan review for building permits. And as you know, during the prior to this, there was an opportunity for those who were having issues getting permits through cities and counties to allow them to go through a process where if they could not get the city or county to issue the permit, they could go through a third party. The city or county still received half of the fees, and then they would be on their own as far as what the costs were from the third party to do the plan review. This just codified that during the pandemic, the governor allowed those developers to go directly to the third party and not wait the prescribed time. But I think my understanding is in talking to ACC and GMA, a lot of cities and counties actually like this because they still got half the fee and they didn't have to do any of the work, and most of the work was done in a timely manner. So I think that helped greatly. Next slide, please. I'm going to ask Howard to maybe talk a little bit about these things. We see this as the big issues coming up and some of the things you all might want to take a look at. So I'll let Howard discuss this for a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Don. The buzzword and the watchword for everyone at the General Assembly after we gavelled out on March the 31st has really been focused on reapportionment or redistricting, and that's the process by which after a completed count by the census, we redraw all the lines across the entire state and across the entire country to level set for equity in terms of population. So Georgia, as you guys may have read or may have seen in the news, added, I think, just over 1 million new residents over the last 10 years. So not quite enough to gain a congressional seat or to change our standing in the Electoral College, but certainly enough to add thousands of voters in districts across the entire state. So we'll have a special reapportionment session, likely in late September, early October, potentially and possibly delayed because of some delays with the census numbers that are still forthcoming. So that's one of the big topics that I know folks will be talking about. And this also impacts your locally elected officials at the local level, city council, school board, et cetera. Donna, I'll kick it back to you on budget priorities. I know there are a number of things that did arise this past year. I'll just say, even with the pandemic economy, I know that the state legislature and its members were very pleased to learn that we're still $2.5 billion ahead of where we were last year, even acknowledging all the impacts that, the shutdown and the impacts to basically the business and small business in particular have had on our economy. So I think the positive news here is that the financial state of Georgia is still very strong, but I'll let Don talk a little bit more about financial priorities and budget priorities going forward.
Absolutely. So, I think cities and counties across Georgia have experienced a better than expected budget process, and the revenues were far greater than they were anticipating. So all good news and rosy pictures. I also think the additional dollars you've got from the CARES Act 1.0, CARES Act 2.0, and the American Rescue Act have helped a lot of cities and counties. And thankfully, the American Rescue Act went directly to the cities, and it didn't have to use the county as a conduit, which I think is helpful. As you know, Mayor Motley Broom was very much involved in negotiating with Fulton County to get some of the dollars out of the CARES 2.0 funding. We expect that on the federal level, and I'm sure you'll have a federal lobbyist give you much more details about it, that the infrastructure bill, which could be anywhere from $2 to $4 trillion, could also put you all in a very good opportunity to bring down even more dollars for various projects. So I think all that is gives a pretty rosy picture with regards to budget priorities and budgets that are opportunities coming out there. And last thing we'd say is if you're going to attend the GMA conference, Ohio River South and PGR, we intend to be at the conference, and hopefully we'll have a chance to host you while you are down there. So we just wanted to briefly mention GMA, and hopefully we'll see you at the conference. Last slide, I think. Oh, yes. I'll let Howard sort of talk a little bit about upcoming elections and retirements.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Don, again. As, again, many of you may have read or heard, and this is tied to some degree to reapportionment, but also to, highly competitive constitutional offices or races that'll be on the ballot for next year. We've had a number of members of the General Assembly decide that they are not seeking re-election or deciding to seek a higher office, which also opens that seat. I think in almost every case, save for maybe Representative Burt Reeves, and I believe in almost every other case, each of these members who is listed on the slide deck is planning to serve out his or her term. So that means they will still be in a position to vote on legislation in the 2022 session, and then they will likely, in many of these cases, stand for office or for higher office in the May elections, in the primary elections that immediately follow the end of the General Assembly. So just really an important note that, we've seen this over years. A fair amount of institutional knowledge sometimes kind of gets out of the General Assembly in big swoops. I think we had something like 36 new members between the House and the Senate and the last election cycle. Not quite that many showing right now in terms of retirements, but that there obviously could be a lot of change with both lines being redrawn as well as folks deciding to run for higher office or to retire and to do something else with their lives. So just important to note that as we're looking at legislative leaders to continue to be able to represent College Park effectively, that there will be some changes in the General Assembly, but we'll keep you abreast as those changes start to take place.
And just officially announced today, something that we had heard previously, Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan announced he was not going to seek re-election, although he intended to serve out the remainder of his term, which ends in January of 2023. The President Pro Tem of the Senate, Butch Miller, has already filed paperwork to run for that office. So I'm sure many, many others will be running, and you could see a cascade effect of those who resign their seats or choose not to seek re-election in their seats to run for lieutenant governor. So I think that is then the last slide, and we'll be glad to take any questions or comments. As you see from the slide, here is the entire PGR Ohio River South team, and you've got our emails as well as our cell phones.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you certainly for your efforts in the priorities that College Park has. I know there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of heavy lifting on your end, and we certainly are grateful for that. We're losing 2 representatives off of that list who have opted to run for higher office, and I'm sure that list will get longer as time goes on and people seek additional opportunities. And we certainly understand that some of that institutional knowledge and some of the priorities that we have as a city are ones that you can convey to those new folks as well. So we do appreciate your efforts. Any questions for Mr. Boley or Mr. Franklin? Councilman Allen?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You unmuted. I thought you might have something to say. All right. And we have an agreement to review on this. Is there a motion in regard to the
Yes, I move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
Good job, guys.
Yes, we love.
Thanks.
Well, you know what, honey? Now we can go night-night. I can take you.
Okay.
Odie, mute your mic,
Ms.
please.
Norton?
I know, love, but it's
Ms.
so
Norton.
late. I get to take my girl.
Ms. Norton.
I'm super sad that I didn't get to see my boy, so I'm gonna come.
Mr. Hicks,
hang out
can
with
you,
you and get to
can
take
you move Ms. Norton?
Yeah, I'm trying to find her right now.
I see her.
Oh, I see it.
All right. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. So item 8B, consideration of and action on a request for approval of an agreement between ADP and the City of College Park for payroll processing services. I know that we had to cut the conversation a little bit short in workshop. So if there are additional questions for the ADP representative, now would be a great time to go ahead. Is he here?
Yeah, I have a couple more questions, Mayor.
All right, let me make sure. Is he here? Mr. Dixon, Mr. Hicks, can you move Mr. Dixon over, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, he's moved.
All right, Mr. Dixon, can you hear us, and can we hear you?
My apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we sure can.
Oh,
all right,
my Lord, I'm so sorry.
Councilman Clay has some questions for you.
Of
so
course.
Go right ahead, Councilman Clay.
Yeah, I one of these actually I think is for Dr. Baker, but in year 4, we see a significant increase from year 2 to year 3. And
yes, sir.
If all things were equal, in other words, if year 4 were this year, and we had no introductory offer to ADP, what would our cost be this year?
So just to clarify the question, you said if you were to come on live with ADP 4 years from now, and that were your introductory price, what would the price be?
No. What I'm saying is, if there were no introductory price, look, we have a significant increase between year 2 and 3. About, I think I computed about 13%, something like
yes,
that.
Sir.
And yet the answer to my earlier question by email was that was the introductory rate being spread over several years. So my question is, in year 4, when there is no more introductory rate, I'm curious as to what the rate would be.
Yes,
and
sir.
Of course, the answer to that question is immediately, well, everything will change. You'll have a different number of employees. You'll have a different number of transactions. There'll be inflation, et cetera, et cetera. So to take all of that out and just compare apples with apples, if this were year 4 and nothing had changed from year 1, what would our rate be?
Yes, sir. It's super easy question, and it is a very good question. So what we did, the annualized rate that you guys saw on the proposal, which is around 59,000 per year, that is the annualized rate, and that per employee per rate will continue forward. The most that you will ever see in an annualized rate increase with ADP is under 3%. We average between 1% and 2%. Based on an initiative from our CEO in order to not overcharge our clients. But the 13% increase is to that 59,000. So the first 2 years, we offered a additional promotion that applies to months 7 and 8. So you all would not receive an invoice for months 7 and 8 for the first year and the second year, saving that additional 13% years 1 and year 2. Just to help with the upfront costs of implementation and understanding that a lot of our clients have to, in some respects, budget for a new investment. We tried to offer that promotion to help a little bit. The industry average for annualized increases is between 4% and 5%, but we haven't had a 3% increase for any one of our over 800,000 clients in over 4 years.
Okay, good. Wow, that puts that worry to bed. So the other question I have is partly for Dr. Baker and you as well. and that is we're going to have to train staff. There's going to be a fair amount of questions, anticipating some possible integration problems. We're going to need customer support. And I don't recall, I skimmed the agreement. I could have missed it in there, but are there any performance standards for customer support? In other words, we call up, we have a problem, something's not working. How much is guaranteed, or what is the response time that's guaranteed? An hour, a day, 2 days? What are we talking about? And is that in the contract? And is it enforceable in the contract, I guess?
Sure. So there were a couple things in the question, so I'll approach it from a few different ways. Number one, we call it a service agreement. And the reason that we call it a service agreement is that it's not a binding contract. We've got to prove ourselves from payroll to payroll, and you can leave at any point with 60-day notice without cause, 30-day notice with cause, and that is built into the contract. So if we're not upholding our end of the bargain from a service standpoint, which we pride ourselves on doing, our average client tenure is between 11 and 12 years. So we take that very seriously. And within the service model that we presented for you all, we have a dedicated account manager that is specific to your account, that is very responsive. Ted Smith and I from the sales team provide everybody in that welcome call that doesn't already have it with our cell phones. And we're always here to support our clients, both through implementation and ongoing service, to ensure that you all have a great client experience. Having said that, we really ensure from a call time wait period that by no means would you be waiting multiple days for a response. With that dedicated account manager and additional support, if needed, if something isn't able to be taken care of on that first call, and first calls are resolved 85% on the first call. So anytime there needs to be additional research involved, we have a 24 to 36 hour potential wait period. In most cases is not needed, because like I said, we handle 85% of those service issues on the first call.
Okay. Dwight, are you comfortable with not having any specific response times in the contract?
And I apologize, one clarification, wait period wasn't as good of a descriptor right there. Resolution period, because we're going to identify what the issue is, and then we're going to be working on it on the background and then let you all know when it's completed. So it's not as though you would ever reach out to us with an issue and not hear back for 36 hours.
Right. No, I got that because we have your phone number. Thank you.
Exactly.
Dwight, are you good with that? And Mr. Hicks good with that?
I've got a question for Mr. Dickinson. Mr. Dickinson.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Michael. I cut you off.
I was going to say, in the event that we do have an extended problem, I could easily break the API and we perform payroll in-house, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, good enough.
We would not want you to, but most certainly you all could, any integrations that were put in place, you could break the API, as you said, and you all could begin to process payroll in-house if that's what you elected to do. Like I said, it's just a 60-day without cause and 30-day with cause. So we pride ourselves on kind of proving our service capability every payroll process.
Any other questions for Mr. Dixon?
Is Dr. Baker okay with that?
Dr. Baker?
Dr. Baker texted me and said he was trying to get on the call here. So,
okay.
Okay. Well, maybe somebody else has a question.
Mr. Dixon, I just want to make sure, I mean, what does it look like for our employees in becoming familiar with this system, and making sure that, you know, that we get maximum usage on the app and people have an awareness of where they can find pertinent information and the like? How does ADP help that process?
Definitely. No, that's great question. We really designed the technology to be user-friendly and intuitive. There are a number of self-learning tools that you can click certain bites of how does this work, and little videos can walk you through it. In terms of our focus on helping ensure clients get maximum utilization out of the product, that's one of the 4 pillars of our implementation process. So we have quarterly utilization reviews where we'll have someone sit down with a member of your team and literally walk you through the stats of how effectively your team is utilizing the technology to ensure you're effectively using all of the modules that you're paying for, at which any point you could scale down or up if needed. So we'll give you that utilization data, as well as provide manager and employee training on how to leverage the app from an employee self-service standpoint. If you were trying to pull a pay stub, see what your upcoming paycheck would be, request time off on the app, a number of really cool employee self-service tools that will ensure your employees are very familiar with how to use.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Dixon?
Madam Mayor, pardon the interruption, but Dr. Baker just texted me. He's on the phone. He's having some technical challenges right now, but he said that he is okay with their proposal. He'd like to move forward.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. I believe Councilman Taylor, yours was a aye vote as well, correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Appreciate your time. Item 8C is consideration of an action on a request for approval of workers' compensation benefits renewal for 2021 benefits plan year and authorization for the city manager to execute carrier and vendor partnership documents. Is this going to be Dr. Baker or Ms. Miller?
Mr. Hicks is Dr.
Mr.
Baker
Hicks?
Yes,
No,
Evan Taylor is going to take this.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Taylor, go right ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes.
Wonderful. There is a document. Let me pull this up. Well, I have a document that I sent in prior to today's meeting with a review of the workers' compensation. There we go. Thank you so much. So this is an overview of the workers' compensation program. You can keep going here. Keep going. Keep going. All right, there we go. So you'll see here on this page, we have an overview of the payroll. The payroll is the primary rating basis for workers' compensation. So you'll see the estimated annual payroll. This would be for June 1st of this year to June 1st of next year. You'll see the carrier listed there at the top is Midwest Employers Casualty, which is a Berkeley insurance company. It's the current carrier for the city of College Park, and we'll review our marketing efforts and the other carriers that we went to towards the end of this presentation. You'll see in part 1 there, we've got obviously the state listed as Georgia. Part 2 for employer's liability. This is a gross willful negligence coverage on behalf of the employer, where the limits are capped at $1 million, which is standard in workers' compensation. And then in part 3 with the rating information, the payroll that was provided to us for the coming year. We can continue the next slide. All right, one more. Excellent. So the claims handling right now, the TPA, the third-party administrator for all claims, is PMA Companies, which is Old Republic. They're one of the few standalone TPA services that They provide simply TPA services without being attached to any other line of coverage. So we went to several other carriers to see if we could get a more competitive TPA offering. And most of the carriers said they would only do it if they provided the workers' compensation coverage itself. You can see here, City of College Park has used PMA companies as their TPA for the prior 3 years. That was a flat fee of $16,700 a year. That same term with the exact same terms, the exact same per claim fee and an unbundled service model is being charged for the coming term as well. And you'll see that listed there in the expiring term. So there's no changes to the third-party administrative service. Next slide. All right, so this is the only substantive change to the workers' compensation program, which is the consistent feedback we received from every carrier that we went to in the marketplace, was the retention, which you'll see in that first section under specifics. So retention for firefighters and retention for police. In the expiring policy, the current term that the City of College Park has, there's a $550,000 per claim deductible, per claim retention for all claims. So that's all class codes, doesn't matter the type of employee, including firefighters and police. Now, Midwest employers offered renewal terms. They increased the retention for firefighters and police to $750,000 per claim. And then they provided other retention options for all other class codes, which you'll see there in option 1, 2, and 3, and that being $550,000, $600,000, and $650,000. Because the payroll is reduced from the prior term, you'll see ultimately at the bottom that the total premium has been reduced as well, obviously because there's about $18.5 million of payroll versus 22.3 approximately that's been used in the current term. If we go quickly to the next slide, and we'll come back to this one. Go back one, please. Thank you. All right, so you'll see in the marketing summary here, we contacted several carriers that are not listed here that had no appetite to provide coverage predominantly, but due to the civil unrest that occurred at the beginning of COVID in 2020. And so obviously there was a lot of firefighters and police involved in civil unrest issues throughout the country. And so there's limited market appetite, but you'll see travelers, they were interested but declined since they needed to write all lines of coverage. Safety National was not competitive, along with Hartford. Liberty Mutual declined, along with United Heartland, because they would not underwrite fire and police payroll at this time. So if you go back to the prior slide, the recommendation that we're making is option 1, which really maintains the same deductible of $550,000 per claim, and then the $750,000 for firefighter and police related workers' compensation injuries. That's $131,000 a total estimated annual premium, including the TPA service from PMA. We do not believe, based on the claims information that we've been provided, that option 2 or 3 makes sense, simply because it's a $50,000 increase on a deductible on a per claim basis for a very, very small amount of savings. We have additional information that we could review there if needed, but that's the substance of our information for the renewal. So you can see the markets that we went to, and then the renewal terms that were provided from predominantly Midwest employers, who was the most competitive, obviously. So we're open for questions from anyone that may have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Taylor?
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
Does the State Board of Workers' Comp still provide the managed care workers' comp organization for the TPAs?
Yes, sir.
Did you choose an MCO? Is the one that we're using an MCO, a TPA?
Can you clarify MCO, sir?
I think it's called Managed Care Organization. They get a certification through the state board for being a third-party administrator.
They are, yes, sir. They are included in the endorsement paperwork, and recognized by the carrier. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Taylor? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the recommended option.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8D has been removed from the agenda, so we are on to item 8E, consideration of an action on a request for approval of the emergency repair of the Southeast Lift Station located at 1219 Forest Parkway. Mr. Myers, I believe he's available if anyone has any questions on this particular issue.
I got mine answered already.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Motion to approve.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Madam Mayor.
Aye.
Wait. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Mr. Denmark? Is that you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to bring to the council's attention, it may not change the council's decision on this, but I feel obligated to mention that under the agreement, it provides that the contract is entered into in Costa Mesa, California, and that the agreement is to be construed in accordance with the laws of the state of California, and that any dispute shall be resolved by binding arbitration in Los Angeles. So I just wanted to make the council aware of that. Those are certainly not favorable conditions in the contract. I understand that this is being pursued on an emergency basis, and that may cause us to look the other way on that provision, kind of sign and pray that nothing happens, but I felt at least obligated to raise the fact that that's what it provides.
Well,
any reason you didn't bring it up prior? I mean,
we weren't asked to look at this. I was going through the packet and I noticed this.
I asked that specific question beforehand as to why the city attorney had not reviewed it. This is the second or third item in the packet tonight that the transmittal letter did not indicate that the city attorney had reviewed it. One of them had been reviewed. Apparently this one had not been reviewed. And I don't understand why we're getting information in our packet that does not state that the city attorney has reviewed it. And if it doesn't state that the city attorney has reviewed it, then I should assume it hasn't been reviewed, which is clearly the case here. That needs to be fixed.
It would be fixed, Councilman Clay.
all right. So
do we reconsider the vote?
yeah, the vote was unanimous in favor of it. If there is a motion to reconsider that vote.
I'll move to reconsider.
Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor to reconsider the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. All right. So, Mr. Myers, I'm sorry, there were a couple of issues that you had. Has this repair already been executed?
No, this hasn't been executed. We just needed to get the, they've used this, from my understanding, when I talked to Antoine, they've used the same company in the past. I don't understand that.
Okay, but I'm sorry, and I don't mean to, well, I am cutting you off and I apologize, but it has not been done yet. So we can still take another look at this contract to make sure that it conforms to what we need as a Georgia entity.
I have a question as well.
Councilman Allen, go right ahead.
On the summary, where it talks about E, it says this is a budgeted item. And then when I go through page 249 in the packet, it says, no, this item was not budgeted. So I don't know if it's budgeted or not.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Myers, can either of you shed light on that for Councilman Allen?
I do think
this wasn't budgeted because we didn't expect to have to do, of course, we just got the information. I wasn't expecting to have to do anything. And so, no, the item wasn't budgeted. It was an emergency. It needed to be emergency repair because there's two supposed to be out there. They're supposed to alternate, and one of them is completely gone. So I needed to make a decision. Either if the other one goes, then we're spilling straight into the creek out there. And the southeast lift station is it's a big lift station. It's the biggest one we have in College Park, and it pumps everything all the way around the airport.
Okay, Mr. Myers, let me make a suggestion here. Mr. Denmark, have you, other than the venue for the laws, or do you see any other issues with the contract?
No real issues, Madam Mayor. We typically try to use our form, or like we did in the ADP context, we did the addendum, which gave us terms that we modified from their form. So we have not done that here. This is their form, and we haven't done an addendum where we get favorable terms that benefit the city of College Park. So that gives me a little bit of concern, but the specific answer to your question is no, nothing else jumps off the page at me that makes me say, whoa.
Would the body feel comfortable approving the repair in that amount for a contract that would have the forum as state of Georgia?
Yes.
I can do that.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Taylor.
If this is you're saying that this is an emergency, like we need to get this done right away, though, right?
Well, that's why I was making that suggestion that if we can get that portion of the contract shored up, then if you allow that to happen after this, so we wouldn't necessarily have to wait another 2 weeks on it.
So do we have somebody else lined up to do it if we approve that amount, or what we go from this point if we approve the amount tonight?
I think we're also approving this company to do the work, but we need to get that portion that gives the forum in California we need to get that changed.
Yeah, Mayor, I think the situation here is we have redundant pumps. This is the same lift station that we had the water spill in, didn't we, Jackson? Correct?
No, that was lift stations 1 and 2 on Riverdale Road is what I sent you that they got fined $22,000 for.
No. I mean, we had one that it was damaged because the system got flooded and one of the pumps was damaged. That was several weeks ago. Okay. Regardless of that, we have redundant pumps there. If the second pump fails, we're in a world of hurt, and we could get a significant fine, to say nothing of the fact that we don't want to create an environmental issue. So let me modify what the mayor said. If we made the motion to approve it, and Winston, as quickly as possible, works with Jackson to see if we can do an amendment and make our best efforts to do an amendment to get it resolved under Georgia law as opposed to California law. But failing that, we go ahead and make the purchase and the installation. How does that sit with everybody? So we don't run any longer than we have to without a duplicate unit there.
I think we got to do that.
It's fine.
Yes.
Okay, I'll propose a motion that way.
Yeah, one more time, just make sure that everyone's on the same page about what your motion is.
Okay, the motion is that we approve this, but require that city attorney and Jackson work their best efforts to get the agreement amended to resolve the issue under Georgia law as opposed to California law. However, if they are unsuccessful in doing that, because we believe we have done this before under a similar agreement, we would go ahead and approve it anyhow.
That might be the,
It stands approved anyhow. Does that make sense?
it makes sense to me. Is there a second?
I second. I think we have to do this.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item F is consideration of an action on a request for approval of annual on-demand contractual services for the city's water distribution, stormwater, and sanitary sewer collection systems. Mr. Myers?
Yes, Public Works does an on-demand service every year and advertised for this, and we came back that these two companies, Construction 57 and KEMA and Site Engineering, were on the list, and Construction 57 has worked personally well with me and the city for the last several years. Been very responsive.
Any questions for Mr. Okay. All right. Let me just ask if anybody has any questions. All right. Hearing none, Councilman Clay has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item G is consideration of and action on a request for approval of the pretreatment of the city's wastewater chemical injection system at the City of Atlanta Department of Aviation Lift Station Number 1, located on Riverdale Road. Any questions for Mr. Myers on this one? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
I move to approve.
All right, I heard Councilman Clay first. Councilman Allen, are you the second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item H is consideration, 8H is consideration of an action on a request for approval to update the City of College Park's branding and marketing. Mr. Walker?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council and my colleagues and all those listeners and viewers. Just wanted to update you that the leadership of the City of College Park has given direction to seek enhancement of the city's branding and imagery and marketing. And what we did was we got bid openings and potential contractors submitted those bids. They've submitted them by the deadline. They were checked by the city's procurement administrator and were then submitted to judgment by a committee. Ethic Creative Works was the committee's top candidate based on the project scope, price and summary, as well as additional interrogatories in the bid. And what we have found is that our branding needs most certainly include, but are not limited to, logo use, different signage around the town, stationery, different departments have branding needs as well. And I would also be remiss if I didn't include recreation and 6 West. So what we were looking forward to do was to get a complete refresh or redo of the city's logo, including a tagline. And we have to look at a broader scope that includes, that goes beyond just our association, say, with the airport. We've got a convention center and arena, not one, but 2 professional sports teams that call the arena home. And just across the street, we're getting ready to embark on $1 billion development. It's on the way. So it's time to think big. And I do believe Mr. Wayne Whiteside's logged in and said he was on the call. So he might be available to answer any questions if you had any. But let me just make sure.
I'm here.
So,
okay, Mr. Whitesides. Any questions for Mr. Walker or Mr. Whitesides?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Civic Live is doing our website now. And it seems like what we've done here is we've combined the branding program with also the design and of the website. And you also have the issue of web hosting. Now, I don't know whether Civic Live does the web hosting as well or whether they contract that out, but clearly Ethic appears to be responsible somehow for web hosting. So I just don't quite understand where it's not just the branding issue, it's the structure of the website, it's how you maintain it when it doesn't work, when something goes down, it has to be addressed. Help me understand the mechanics of this thing, and how does this package that we're getting from Ethic differ from the package that we're getting from Civic Live currently?
To answer that question, Councilman Clay, I'll first state that the initial intention was to have two different events. One would be to have a branding contractor, and the next would be to have a web contractor, not necessarily stating that they had to be one and the same. So what we've done early on is seek to deal with the branding aspect right now. If you're asking a little bit more about the hosting, I might have to ask Mr. Hicks to talk a little bit about that, but
yes,
we're looking forward to literally, yes, getting a new vision, a new image, a new logo, new taglines, and trying to do all of that with, yes, the idea of having that blend in together with a new website design. So, but just for my purposes, I can certainly, address anything dealing with our branding and the decision to select this contractor.
So does that mean that while we're working on branding, we continue with Civic Live?
Exactly, Councilman.
Yes.
Exactly, Councilman Clay. Right before you change a website, you have to figure out who you are. So that is why we did the branding. We separated the two in the bid so that we could take care of the branding first. Then once we get the branding underway and figure out who we are, then we can transition it into rebuilding the website. But we're only dealing with the branding and marketing.
Okay, so and then it's on me. I misunderstood. I thought we were somehow buying a package, and I didn't understand how that package, why we were buying a package, why the two elements had to be bought together. But you're saying this is just the branding.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, that clarifies it for me.
I have
right,
one question.
Okay, Councilman Gay, you're right ahead.
A while back, we had in a workshop, people coming and talking about branding, and one of the three finalists was the guy who did our retreat. If you can help me with that company name, I think we were talking about branding. Was he one of the respondents to the bid?
It was KDR, and no, he was not.
So is this a new bid, or because wasn't that a bid and we didn't select anyone?
It was part of a package with the strategic planning, and then we did the branding and marketing. And I think right before COVID, his contract was canceled. So we put out the bid again.
I see. Well, I have a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, is there a second? All right, thank you, Councilman Clay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Taylor, where are you?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 8I, thank you, is consideration of an action on a request for approval of the annual renewal of the Esri GIS software license utilized for GIS citywide mapping operations. Any questions for Mr. Hicks on this one? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is
That's
unanimous.
one of the best moves we've ever made.
GIS is incredibly important.
yes.
Item 9A, consideration of an action on a request for approval of an indoor smoking ordinance. Is this Ms.
All
Washington or
right.
Ms. Washington? Hello, good evening.
How are you doing?
Doing well.
Great to be here. So yes, this is the indoor smoking ordinance. We've been discussing it for a while. We made a few adjustments as we realized last time that we were maybe a little too broad. So we got a little more specific with this one. This is only addressing indoor smoking. So all outdoor smoking is still permitted. And the exceptions to, so generally indoor smoking will be prohibited in the city. The exceptions to that will be restaurants. We did take out the caveat with the $250,000 that we discussed at the last meeting. We took that out. There are requirements for if they are a restaurant that want to have smoking, they have to have that designated area with the ventilation system that has to be 21 and up, and they have to have a valid alcohol license. So those will be their requirements. Smoking will also be permitted in tobacco retail stores as long as they are also 21 and up. I think that was all of our concerns. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Ms. Washington?
And you fixed the nit.
I did. Sorry about that.
There was one word that should have been deleted. No big deal.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Washington? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
All right. Who? I heard both of you at the same time. Who wants to be the second?
I'll second.
I'll be second.
All right. All right, we got Clay with the motion, Alan with the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen. Item 10A, consideration of an action on the imposition of a 90-day moratorium on the acceptance of all applications for permits, licenses, or inspections related to the development of occupied shipping container buildings. Who's heading up this conversation?
I'll carry the ball on this one because I'm the one that suggested it.
Okay.
We had the application in from Revival Co-working. The issues were more with the construction material, things like lack of ventilation and the acoustical requirements and so forth. When Michelle looked at the requirements, the material requirements and so forth, the ordinance was silent on them. Correct, Michelle?
Related to containers, it is silent. Correct.
Right. So the concern I have, you heard all the concerns when we discussed it. I don't have a problem with containers at all. I think it's a great way of construction, provided it looks good and provided you don't have 6 million of them in a 2-block area. And so I think we need to look at the construction guidelines. I don't think it's acceptable to have no ventilation in an 8x10 room with only a door. And that's been fixed in the other project, and we've approved it. So I think we ought to review requirements for container buildings. And what I am trying to forestall is a whole bunch of other people who may have still land within the 6 West area that has not been purchased by BIDA, who all of a sudden say, hey, we want to have containers too. Or even maybe Revival wants to buy another piece of property and put containers on them. And before we make this rush to create Container City, I think we need to review the construction and the zoning requirements for that kind of construction. And I wanted to get it on the agenda tonight so that we forestall a whole bunch of applications coming in that are effectively grandfathered when we come out the other end. And that's the reason why I think we should approve it tonight. And maybe we'll make no changes. It may be just fine. And a month from now, we'll say, hey, everything is good, go ahead. But I'd like staff to have a chance to consider some of those issues.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item B, 10B is consideration of an action on a request to expand the City of College Park's homestead tax credits to senior residents. Ms. Flord Bradley.
Mayor, I have Philip Latona on the line. He's going to take over this agenda item.
All right,
Philip.
Mr. Latona.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The Office of Finance and Accounting took a deeper look into the homestead tax credit program and how it affects our city residents. Citywide, we have 1,138 residents on homestead exemption credits. Focus was placed on the Fulton County side, which it makes up 1,113 of that 1,138 residents. I found that 91 residents or property owners are fully exempt from Fulton County city taxes. That 91,000 would equate to additional tax dollars of roughly $30,000 to make them exempt.
Are those, I'm sorry, Mr. Latona, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. Are those 91 property owners who are fully exempt, are they seniors? Do we know if they are all seniors?
I'd have to look at the code descriptions. That would be the only way I could tell, because right now it's just basically a code for a homestead exemption credit. I do believe most are senior exemptions. There are a few categories that are for veterans in that 91. I'd have to do some further research just to identify by code the legal description of whether it's 65 or 70 plus.
Philip, could you tell me what do I have to be to fall in this category that is exempt and get more exemption, or help me out?
Yeah, Councilman Clay, it's a combination of, I think, 2 or 3 things. Certainly age and income is one criteria that the county uses. The other criteria is the property's value. And that, that can fluctuate year over year. So unfortunately with College Park, our homestead credit that we offer is not tied to an age or an income level, because all that specific data is filed with the application at the county level. I'm just utilizing a field on the tax digest that says that this person is a county homestead recipient, and then we extend our credit to that individual. So
and they wouldn't get that from us because how is it they qualified for the county and didn't qualify for us?
No, if they qualify for the county, they automatically qualify for us. We utilize the list provided from the county. So
right.
If we have 1,000 residents on the county side, then there's 1,000 residents on the city side. It's just the level of credit that they're getting because the specific items being taxed are different on the county bill than they are on the city bill. And our tax credit is not tied into any age or income bracket. So a new 35-year-old homeowner may be getting the same level of credit currently in our current situation as a 62-year-old or a 65-year-old.
But the county has given them credit on their taxes.
Correct.
Okay. So all we're basically saying, I'm trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
All we're basically saying is if the county gives them credit, we give them credit.
Correct. I was looking more specifically, I was tasked with identifying the residents of College Park that are getting a credit and that become fully exempt from paying county taxes? And how could we make them fully exempt on the city tax level?
And okay.
And that would be identifying that there's 91 property owners that are fully exempt on the county, but that pay some form of dollar amount to the city for taxes. And to eliminate that, it would be about $30,000.
Well, so we're saying if it's good enough for the county to exempt them, then why shouldn't it be good enough for the city to exempt them? And presumably the county has some good reason. Maybe they're a veteran, maybe they're not well off financially, maybe they're a senior citizen. Whatever that reason is, if it's good enough for the county, it's good enough for us. That's what we're saying.
That is correct.
Okay.
So we're looking at extending this for 91 people, essentially, as of right now.
Yes.
And the cost is 30,000.
Yes, based on 2020 values. So now 2021 comes around. I don't know if property values are going to change. So I do ask that there is
sure they will.
Some room for some flexibility here.
Well, basically, these are people, many of them presumably, that are limited in some way. They have some hardship or what have you. And for $30,000, we can make a huge difference in their lives, presumably, potentially a huge difference, significant anyhow.
I agree.
Okay.
So this looks like
I'm good at this point.
This looks like it's about $330 a person. And so, Mr. Latona, can you talk to us about what this looks like on your end? How do we make sure that so when it comes from the county and you see that someone is fully exempt on the county end, what does that look like administratively on the city's end?
Well, typically, I'll be honest with you, this was my first deep dive into examining each and every account. I only really utilize the data from the county just to identify the specific accounts that we need to extend our city credit to. So for that reason, it was an interesting dive into the information. The county uses codes, and I didn't want to go down this route, but they use codes obviously based on age or income criteria. And that's how I guess they can afford to extend additional senior level credits to those who are 65 and older or 70 and older, and maybe have income less than a certain dollar value. That's how it comes into me. That I see it on reports. It's just a column with a code number. The code number has a description attached to it, but for College Park, I never paid too much attention to that because ours is not tied to an age or an income level. It was just an extension of it's up to $40,000 of assessed value. Or if you fell into one of two other categories, we offered a higher credit threshold for disabled veterans at 100%, or unmarried spouses of emergency services workers killed in the line of duty for police or fire. So how I would look at it, I would probably, we'd have to probably do it by code if we're going to be offering this extension. And that's where I would probably defer to Winston to get some legal assistance on how an ad would have to get run to have it, I guess, voted by the citizens. Obviously, I would believe that they would vote for it, but we just would need to have it, I guess, spelled out correctly.
Mr. Denmark, how would it work?
Madam Mayor, I would have to look at that. I haven't considered that issue presently, but I would look at it, and me and Mr. Latona would work it out, but I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
I have a comment. I would like to thank Tax Office Phil for doing such a deep dive in the Finance Department. I would like to make a motion that we approve it and allow the legal team to determine how it's to be advertised.
Second.
What is it? Because senior residence is on here, but this is really looking at property owners who, the discussion that we've been having has been property owners who are fully exempted from Fulton County. So that does not cover all of our senior residents. I want to make sure the motion is clear.
I can go back and identify those 91 residents. It's a small handful of codes and get a legal description for what each code represents, if that helps the governing body.
Well, I don't think that's necessary for this motion. So
Okay.
Councilman Gay, do you want to clarify the motion?
The motion is clarified that it would identify the persons who are fully exempt from Fulton County to be exempt from City of College Park tax.
All right.
And I'll modify my second to agree with that.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 10C is consideration of an action on a request for approval to refund money donated for the Mayor's Ball held in November 10th, 2018.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was a part of the Mayor's Ball in 2018, and what the money was supposed to be used for was for kids to attend community or technical colleges. And in an effort to be transparent, we wanted to try to clear it up and refund those donations. They would not, the people that made the donations would not get the full amount of money that they donated. They would get a percentage of that money based on what the actual ball cost. But $60,000 is what we have to give back, and it would be dispersed accordingly. But it is based on what they gave. So if someone gave $1,000, it does not mean they're going to get $1,000 back. They would get a percentage of what was not used for the Mayor's Ball. So I did speak with our legal attorney, and Winston's advice was for, if the city wanted to do it clear and clean, was to return the funds. So I am seeking your approval to return those funds to those individuals.
Mr. Denmark, why did you say that this was the route that we should pursue?
Well, from my perspective, the city has a free hand. I mean, the question posed to me was, would it violate the gratuities clause to give the money back? And my answer was no, it certainly would not violate the gratuities clause to give the money back. And if that's the direction that the city wants to move in, that would certainly be the way to go. I mean, you would certainly have a free hand to do it that way.
Let me ask you this. It was my understanding that money was contributed for a particular purpose and a particular scholarship. If we were to use it for another purpose, would we have a problem, even if it was for a different type of scholarship?
You might have a problem, because obviously individuals made donations excuse me, based on a certain understanding as to what the funds would be used for. And if the funds were used for a different purpose, that would at least raise some concerns. So as the question was raised to me, would it be permissible to give the money back? It certainly would be. If the city elected to retain the funds and use them for a different purpose, then that would certainly raise some concerns in terms of whether that was consistent with the donations that the individuals made in the first place.
Understood. Additional questions from Ms. Miller and Mr. Denmark?
Yeah, I do. First off, the cost, according to this, of the Mayor's Ball was $54,296.76. The city contributed to that a donation of $50,000.
Correct.
If the city simply said, we don't want our donation back, and we choose to do what was originally intended. One of the problems was that we had set this up with an organization. I think it was the Kiwanis
Rotary.
Club?
It was the Rotary.
Rotary Club. Okay, Rotary. I used to be a Kiwanis when I was a kid. Rotary Club. That's a nonprofit organization, and I suppose that could get in the way of the gratuity clause. But what we were trying to do, as I recall, with that organization was to let them do an independent assessment of who to give the money to.
Councilman Clay, I'm going to interject there for a moment. Did this body vote on the Kiwanis?
Rotary, you mean?
I'm sorry, on the Rotary actually administering this? Because I don't recall that there was a vote to that effect.
I thought there was, but I could be mistaken.
Mr. Denmark, do you recall?
I don't have any recollection of there being a vote, one or the other.
Okay, well, where I'm going with this is this. If the city takes responsibility of deciding who to give that money to as a scholarship, then the money is being used for the original intent of the donor. So we don't run afoul of, well, you're going to use it for water and sewer or something, or buying meals for the hungry or whatever. And I wanted kids to have a scholarship from this. So if the city takes the responsibility of administering that selection process, set up our own committee, and figure out who should get a scholarship. Now, one of the things that was suggested was we already use Ignite to take money from donors and direct it to people who are subject. Whether we use Ignite or not, we do have a contract with them. We could use them, but we don't have to do that. All we have to do is set up our own committee and decide based on that who gets the scholarship, whether we use Ignite or do it ourselves directly. Then the money can be given, and we can give out all the money except for the extra, what was it, $4,296. It wasn't covered by the city's contribution, and you've got $116,000 to give out.
Mr. Denmark?
Yes.
In terms of the gratuities clause and the city's responsibilities therein, what are your thoughts about that?
Right. Well, I mean, what Councilman Clay suggested, to the extent we were to use Ignite or an entity that we had a contract with, as you will recall, we have overcome gratuities clause concerns by contracting with a private entity to perform services that the city could pursuant to a contract. And that's what we do with Ignite. And I'm not necessarily suggesting Ignite, but I'm saying an entity like that, and then we would potentially overcome those considerations in terms of the gratuities clause. So that would be one way to do it. The city administering the funds itself obviously would be city money, so you're not worrying about Ignite or some other third party being intervening. So those would be options available to the city, as well as returning the money to the original donors.
What is your advice for us?
Before he give advice, I have a question.
Wait, let him answer the question. What's your advice,
Okay.
Mr. Denmark?
It's really a policy consideration, Madam Mayor, whether the council wants to keep the money or return the money. I think that's kind of a policy consideration for the mayor and council to decide in terms of the course of action. I think that either route you take, we could develop a process whereby we address all concerns. If the council gave the staff direction to move in direction A or direction B, we could fashion a path forward that would be consistent with the council's directives and with the law. But which direction you go, A or B, it's really a policy consideration for the mayor and council.
I asked you what your recommendation would be. I understand that it is a policy consideration for the body.
My recommendation is to give the money back. That's my recommendation. But you know,
I understand. I understand. I was asking your recommendation, and I appreciate that. All right, Councilman Gay.
Yeah, I have a question. I need clarification. So I think someone just said we will be giving out $100 and some odd dollars. I thought it was less than that. Can someone clarify the amount?
Ms. Bradley, will you please clarify the amount?
Am I clarifying the amount of total donations received?
No, the amount that we still have.
66,000. Hold on. I had it right up. $66,647.26.
All right, now I have a comment just for clarification. So I just want to make sure I understand why we should consider the option carefully. It's because my understanding is that that money came from one donor, which was Wally Park. And that money came as a trade-off for us doing the curb cut on Camp Creek that had delayed their permit by the GDOT for approximately 2 years. My clear understanding that it came to council that in exchange for us doing that, we would get a donation, and that is the approximately $60,000 that we have now. I would love for children to get this money. My only thing is that I just don't want any legal issues, or at least Wally Park needs to be made aware that that money has not been given out since 2018. I just want to make sure that we are transparent.
It was a penalty that Wally Park paid, and the city council voted to donate $50,000 of the penalty to the scholarship fund. And their percentage, and the $50,000 that the city council agreed to donate is about 40% of that 120,000. So they would receive 40% of that 66,000 will remain with the city, which equates to about 27,500.
What I am suggesting, Althea, is that the 50 that the city say, we don't want our money back as a donor. And that money will be used effectively to almost cover the cost of the event, which was $54,000. And that the remainder of the money, we say, not only do we not want the money back, but we're not going to give it back to the donors. We're going to give it to the children that it was originally intended for. So it's kind of a hybrid situation that I'm suggesting. I don't know whether that gets us in trouble legally.
I wonder how many people would, or companies would want the money back and have to make adjustments to their taxes or claim that as additional income, right, when they really wanted it to go for kids' schools. And this is where we need to, that's where the money needs to go, to kids' college programs. If we could work out a way to give it to the kids.
Yep.
If it's a committee within College Park, if it's somebody else, I just think it should go to the kids. Or if we give it back, I think we need to send a letter and say, hey, this will come back if you want it. If you don't want it, if you want it still to go to the kids, then we'll give it to the kids.
We don't need to make this an administrative nightmare, guys.
No, I agree. I just would, if they gave it for that reason, I think that's what we ought to spend it for.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Taylor.
Okay, I was under the impression that we had spent the money. So we never, no kids never used any of that money from the beginning?
No, sir.
No, never got there.
I agree with pretty much everybody. I think the kids should get the money. We should take all the money and, try to get it done this year, I guess, for the kids that's going to college or whatever we plan on doing. But I don't think we should give any money back. Let's do what it was intended to do. I don't even think the people that want the money back, because they gave it because they could. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you showing the person blessing by trying to get them something back that they already donated. So I think we should, go ahead and bless these kids that's trying to go to school this year.
Well, it's my understanding that that this was for kids who did not qualify for the HOPE, and that they resided in the city of College Park. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. They had to attend a community or technical college.
Since the Rotary got involved and they are a established organization, if we were to distribute it, I think we should consider the Rotary because it was already over there and they're in that business.
Would we have to put out an RFP on this?
The Rotary they didn't charge us anything, and they weren't going to charge us an administrative fee. Am I correct, Councilman Allen? Because I believe at one point in time you were on the
that happened before I was there, so.
Yeah. You're correct.
I was under the, okay, yeah, so it's correct. They weren't charging an administrative fee.
So I would like to make a motion that we put the money back in the Rotary and let the Rotary distribute it.
Well, Councilman Gay, before someone calls for a second on that, should we perhaps see if the Rotary is interested before we vote to give them the money? If they're willing to.
Well, we gave them the money and then we took it back from them, and now we're going to give it back to them.
Yeah. Well, it was my understanding this council never approved that transfer the first time, which is why it came back.
Well, I'm modifying my motion that if the Rotary denies the money, that we do an RFP.
I have a question.
Hold on, there has been a motion made. Is there a second on that? Okay, the motion dies for a lack of a second. Councilman Taylor?
I don't remember us voting about nothing going to the Rotary also. I remember it was something that we put on the website. You can go through the mayor's ball, and that was a way of people could get the scholarship. I think the Rotary thing came, I know it came out after we found out the money was moved. So I definitely don't remember voting on anything of letting the Rotary do it. If that happened, I don't remember voting on it. I remember something dealing with our website, and that's how you can access the money to try to go to college over the website.
Before we gave it to the Rotary Club, there was a meeting between myself and the past mayor and some educators with Fulton County. And they were going to come up with a criteria as to how the kids could get the money. One of the people that was in the room, I know, was Kimberly Dove. They were going to come up with some criteria, and we were going to go through Fulton County and let them decide who was going to be applicable to getting these funds. I think that kind of it settled down, and we didn't do that. But we did have a meeting with Fulton County about the funding.
Let me make a proposal and see what you think about this. Why don't we defer action on this and see if by the next meeting staff can reach out to the Rotary, see if they'd be willing to undertake this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If they were willing to do it before for no charge and make sure the money went to the kids, let's see if they'd be willing to do it again.
And what about the criteria?
That
Who develops the criteria?
Well, let's see if they'd be willing first.
Well, yeah, but they may be willing to do it, but not develop the criteria, or they may be willing to do both.
Or they may not be willing to do anything at all.
That's certainly a possibility. If I were the Rotary, I would seriously consider getting involved.
Mr. Hicks is the president.
Yes, he is the president of the Rotary. So it may be a little bit easier to get in touch with the Rotary.
I think it should be somebody in College Park, somebody that did not qualify for the HOPE scholarships. I think we could set some.
I think the criteria should stay the same.
Well, that's what the people who made the contributions were anticipating. So,
exactly.
So if we can, so if someone's willing to make a motion to defer to allow staff to examine the rotary issue.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Gay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Do I have to include myself since I'm part of Rotary?
Are you abstaining?
I'm going to
Because you're
abstain
all
because
right.
I'm a Rotary member.
All right. So council members Clay, Gay, and Taylor are in favor. Councilmember Allen has abstained. The motion passes. Item 11, moving on to number 11, City Attorney's report.
Thank you this evening, Madam Mayor.
All right. 12, City Manager's report.
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
All right. 13 is report of Mayor and Council. We're going to go backwards. Councilman Gay, you're up.
I don't have anything. I would just like to thank you all for your cooperation on the tax vote.
All right. Councilman Allen.
I could just have a couple of things. First of all, my condolences to Tracy Wyatt, who recently lost his mother. But I'd like to congratulate the city of College Park, Artie Jones, who received the city of participation in the National League of Cities.
Councilman Allen, I'm going to ask you to hold off on that. I don't.
Okay.
Yep. I don't think we're supposed to.
Okay, I will do that.
Until
it comes out. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, then I'll give my thanks to Giannis and Denise and the people over at the GICC and the arena for conducting basketball again and getting people out. The WNBA, I thought it was great. And then I want to thank the Grissom Youth Organization that has got kids back on the field and playing baseball again. And that's basically all I've got.
All righty. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you did.
Councilman Taylor.
Yes, I want to congratulate all the kids that's going to graduate this year for a job well done. And I want to say to the employees, I want to thank you guys for everything you guys are doing. And it kind of looked like that we got a lot going on, but I want to let you guys know it's in you guys' best interest. All the things that you see going on right now may not make sense, but just hanging here with us, and it's all for the best and the betterment of the city of College Park.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Councilman Clay.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I believe the speed cushions are being installed this week. Hopefully the one on Herschel Road got installed today. I didn't drive Herschel Road today. And I think the rest of them are that were so generously funded by Woodward are going to be installed the rest of this week and into next week probably. And that will take place on the east side of the track and then move to the west side, I think. And Mercedes is nodding. So, and I would like to say it was a real pleasure to come out to Zupp Park and the baseball event over the weekend. It was really great to see the kids out there, and you just have a sense of spring, a sense that the city is coming back, the country is coming back. And as I said when I spoke there, I'm really optimistic, and I'm not usually optimistic. So thank you, everybody that's got us through this year. It's been a real team effort, and it's been a tough year. We'll all remember this. We'll be telling more stories for many years to come about this period. And thank you, and that's all I had.
All right. Well, I will keep with the trend of keeping it brief. It was a great Saturday at the park. My only regret is that I did not get in the bounce house. I really should have, but it was a lot of fun. And thanks to the College Park Police for showing up in force and just having a great time with the kids. And it was just such a lovely day. Really appreciate it. You can still get vaccinations at the GICC. They are available walk-ups Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 3. And there are other things happening at the GICC in the arena as well. And so as we are seeing increases in hotel occupancy and events, we are we are turning this corner, and it's not, we're not out of the woods yet. But I agree with Councilman Clay that there's a lot to be excited about. Some of the things that will be happening in the next couple of months in the city are really, really great. So I appreciate everyone's cooperation and just the spirit that you bring to this city. So I think the next thing we need to do is approve some executive session minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Taylor, you're working on that mute button.
Aye.
Thank you. That is unanimous.
Aye.
All right. I believe that is all the business that we have for this evening. So at 10:20, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening. See you June 7th. Take care.
Take care.
Good evening.
Night.